So, welcome to what shall be the last episode of the Xbox 2 for the year 2023. We are live and we are ready to go. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, with me, who's kind of taking a break this week from socials and other stuff. We have Jez Cord, managing editor, Windows Central, in the house. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, baby. I've been taking a short sabbatical from all things work-related, which has been lovely. Haven't been writing, haven't been editing, haven't been using social media very much, and just kind of enjoying relaxing, which is something I realized that I really should try and do a little bit more often. But yes, it's the end of the year now, and 2024 is coming into view, going back to work on Monday. And what better way to get oriented and ease back into the rat race than hanging out with my buddy Rand and remembering all the cool stuff that's on the horizon for Xbox and gaming in general.
Yeah, indeed. And we need to celebrate, or more, specifically, you need to celebrate. Today is the final day of the Bobby Kotick empire. His last day at Activision Blizzard, and he's probably gone by now. Maybe not now, but either way, by the end of the day, he's gone. Basically, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And as someone, you being someone who loves your Blizzard games and loves Activision, how does it feel that Bobby Kotick, the evil empire, is finally gone?
I mean, it's kind of weird, because for the longest time, and I've been writing articles about this since 2016. One of the first articles, the first rants that I wrote for Windows Central, actually rant, was about Kotick devouring Blizzard, because World of Warcraft was going downhill, free fall. They were starting adding all this weird stuff, microtransactions, a nickel and dime in the game. It felt like corner cutting. It felt like all the Blizzard games were enduring this sort of period of corner cutting and cheaping out on stuff, rather than investment. And that was Activision shareholder culture, and it reminded me of Guitar Hero, what they did to that. It reminded me of what they'd done to, even back then, people complained about Call of Duty going down that route. So it's kind of like, it's lovely. It's gone, frankly. It's really, really, really lovely, and I'm optimistic for what the future holds for Blizzard, but also, like, I don't know. There is a sort of a sense of nervousness almost, because there's just a lot of change going on, and like, how's Microsoft gonna handle it? Is Microsoft going to nickel and dime as well? Because they've got to, make their money back. There's a lot of unanswered questions, I suppose. So, yeah, it's cautious optimism, I think. It would be the way I describe that. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it all goes down in the end. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Do you have any feelings about it?
I don't really have any strong opinions about him running ABK. I guess for me, I used to like Activision way more in the past, when they actually used to do more things than just Call of Duty. And I would like to see them get back to that under Xbox. Release more, standalone games. Maybe loosen up some of the studios from the Call of Duty machine. Like, I get why they essentially put everything into Call of Duty, because it was the thing that made them the most money, etc., etc., etc. But it kind of got rid of some of the other things that made Activision, a pretty good publisher. So we'll see how that happens. I know Tom Henderson's out here basically saying, like, hey, they have Call of Duty games stacked up to 2027, and I know people were hoping that they would essentially dismantle the COD machine, which I always thought was unrealistic, but I thought they could do it in different ways. Like, I didn't expect them to be like, well, now, we only have these 2 studios working on COD. I think they can maybe slip out a couple of them or do whatever. But it does seem like one of those things where it takes a long time to turn the ship, and you need to have your plan. So when Microsoft was acquiring them, they knew what was going on. That's one of the reasons Activision Blizzard was acquired in the first place, because they knew they sort of fucked up, right? They sort of knew they had backed themselves in the corner by putting everything all in Call of Duty, and it was like, oh man, we don't really have anything else. So when Microsoft came calling, because their stock price had fallen, it was like, yeah, this is probably the best for us. And I'm very curious to see how it goes under Xbox. Like, I'm very curious to see how Blizzard flourishes, because all we've heard over the past, years is that Blizzard was sort of kind of, what's the right word I'm looking for here, Jez? They were, I don't want to say like handicapped, but they were, I
think that's a good way of putting it, honestly.
Like, they were handicapped.
Yeah, I do think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I really feel that they were sort of, there's all this kind of talk about how, StarCraft was making less money than Horse Armor in World of Warcraft was, and DLC and all this kind of stuff. Whereas, like, Microsoft's kind of shown that they will do niche stuff, Whereas Kotick was like, oh, niche stuff? Nah, let's kill that. Let's kill StarCraft.
It's not making us $1 billion. No, we're not doing it, right? Yeah. We want an Overwatch 2? In an era where nobody does sequels to multiplayer games because everything's a live service? No, let's do an Overwatch 2 for no particular reason whatsoever, right?
Exactly.
All Kotick decisions. So yeah, they were handicapped. So them being split off, and Blizzard essentially, answering to just Matt Booty. It'd be really interesting to see what because at one point, you could point to Blizzard and be like, they were top 5 studio in the world at one point, right? Just like you could point to BioWare, and you could say BioWare was at one point one of the top 5 best studios in the entire world. And obviously, like, we've seen what happened to BioWare. But I feel like Blizzard, I'm not too confident BioWare can come back from what happened. But I do feel that Blizzard can make that resurgence and basically, show again why they were one of the most beloved developers in the history of video games. Maybe you just needed to get out from underneath Kotick and have somebody who would believe in you and let you do what you felt you should have been able to do. So it'd be interesting how Blizzard evolves during this course, these next 5 years, these next 10 years. I think we'll see huge things from Blizzard personally. And the thing is, like, I don't even know if I'll even care that much about it, because I'm not really the biggest Blizzard fan. Like, I thought Diablo 4 was just okay. I guess I'm just maybe not a fan of the gameplay loop, and I didn't really care that much for Overwatch 2. So to me, even though I'm looking forward to see how Blizzard, what they do with this opportunity and what type of stuff they make, I'm almost kind of sure it won't be stuff I will be very particularly interested in, but I'm sure a lot of people will. Like the survival game that they're working on, Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
How many times have I said I hate survival mechanics in games? It's one of like my
You've
biggest.
said it a lot.
One of my biggest pet peeves in gaming is survival mechanics. And it's already we have the next Blizzard game starting off on a wrong foot for me personally. But I know survival games are very popular, so it's like, oh, Blizzard doing a survival game? That is absolutely going to be huge, but not for Rand. You know what I mean? But not for me.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's all the rumors about StarCraft single-player game, and all kinds of stuff, but there's so much potential that just wouldn't have happened under Kotick, So, like, even if, like, not necessarily Blizzard games, but I kind of feel like Microsoft has an opportunity to use some of that IP and discuss how to use that IP with Blizzard, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Cautious optimism is the name of the game here, I think.
Yeah, and then Microsoft's still fighting the deal. I mean, the FTC is still trying to do whatever they're trying to do, and I saw something that Sony's not even done with it. even though they've signed the agreement for Call of Duty, they're still kind of like doing some things or something. It's like, kind of let this be over already. Jesus Christ. You know?
Yes,
Like it's never ending, right?
So that's why I haven't lost the bet, because it's not over yet.
Lydian Master says Rand hates Grounded. I actually didn't hate Grounded because when we played it, I played it with Colt. I think we turned it on like the easiest difficulty, so survival mechanics don't matter, and it was quite enjoyable. So I didn't have to worry about eating and drinking so much. You know, I just crafting is another thing in games I don't really care for. I don't really care for crafting. I don't care for survival mechanics. It's like, you're making me eat and drink? Like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't know. That's just my personal thing. But yeah, so Kotick's gone. We'll have to wait and see what happens under Xbox, but I mean, I think they're set up for major success. Activision Blizzard King and all of Xbox in general. You know, we'll talk about that, of what their outlook looks like in 2024. I think it's going to be a pretty big year. We're also going to be talking about, you know, some of the other things that went on this week. The Starfield success story on Steam, but also the crazy hate that is going on with Starfield that I am not sure I've ever seen ever happen with any other game. Yo, dude, I just spent 150 hours playing Starfield. Pfft, 4 out of 10. Excuse me? Excuse me. What are you talking about? Dude, I have to like admit, bro, like I totally played Starfield for like 600 hours. And I wouldn't recommend it. Like, why the hell did you play it for 600 hours then? Like, who plays a game they don't like for 100 plus hours? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it is this weird, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, I've never seen it happen with another game where you play a game so much and you're like, yeah, by the end of it, I just didn't like it. It's like, well, why didn't you stop playing it earlier if you didn't like it? Like, if I'm not like a game, like Saints Row, for example, 5 hours in, I was like, I'm done. You know what I mean? Redfall, 5 hours in, I was like, this game is pretty bad. I'm not wasting my time because my time is important. I could be doing so many more things. You're not going to, well, I played Redfall for 100 hours and it you know, it was 4 out of 10. Like, why didn't you stop playing it? I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So if you guys do us a huge favor, make sure you hit the like button if you enjoy the show, and subscribe if you're new. Share this out. Let everybody know that the Xbox 2 podcast is live on its normal day and time. I think, was the last 2 shows that we did kind of late? I know last week was a very weird one because you originally told me you weren't going to be able to do the show. So then I got Nick and got Cognito, and then all of a sudden you were like, I'm here, but we started it like 3 hours later than normal. And I think was it even the week before we started a little bit later too? I forget. But either way, we're here. We're starting at a normal time. Yeah. So we do have a lot of bit to talk about. Last episode of the year, and yeah. So we do have some some shout outs for the Patreon peeps. Thank you, all the Patreon people, for supporting the show. We should, you know, we were going to do an Xbox 2 Ultimate show this week, but we just couldn't fit it in. Like, my internet was out the day we were going to do it, and Jez was pretty much busy the whole week, or at least unplugged. But hey, it's the new year next week, so we'll try to get one done next week, and then we got some guests we lined up for all that good stuff. So, and if you're you know, if you support us at the tier for questions, you can. I think the thread's up now because Jez, I mean, you basically took the whole week off, and I think you just posted the questions on Patreon. So if you haven't put a question in there, make sure you do so, and we will get to that at the end of the show. But we got some shout outs here, and you can join the Patreon, patreon.com/XB2, which is in the description. We have Thurgus, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, Peter B, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, The Grandest of Bit, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Mockazilla, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the GOAT, K-Trax, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, PB Broking, Ace and Madison, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, Ghostface Killer, and Wolfgang KPC. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. So, yeah. So how was your week, Jez? Was it all right? How was Christmas?
It was good, man.
Did you get anything interesting? Any good gifts for Christmas?
I got a lovely bottle of rum for
Ooh,
Christmas.
chat. Let me know what was the one gift that you really surprised you this Christmas. If you got anything. So you got a bottle of rum, which sounds like they know you. They know you, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm too old for gifts, man. I'm too old for gifts. I ask people for like stuff I ask for people for edible stuff these days because I got enough stuff.
Like edibles,
you know.
Edibles, like drugs, edibles.
No. I wish.
Like,
but no,
Jez wants
just
those
like
mushrooms, baby.
Like alcohol or cheese. They'll always buy me cheese.
Cheese.
But yeah, cheese is good.
I remember the one year you sent me some Christmas goodies, some UK chocolate, I believe it was. Which
I did.
Was excellent. You know, I think yours might have been the last gift I've gotten. I can't even remember the last time I've actually gotten a Christmas gift, Jez, honestly.
Oh well.
It's probably been since
with that age, man. With that age, where you're kind of lucky to get a gift. I think.
Right?
Yeah. I bought lots of gifts for other people. My gifts for my girlfriend I haven't got yet because I haven't been in Germany. We're gonna do a late Christmas celebration when I go back to Germany. But yeah, I bought my parents a TV because their TV is old.
What'd you get
terrible.
What'd you get?
I got a 2023 QLED Samsung.
Ooh. What size? What was the size on that bad bag?
50 inch.
Bro,
50 inch.
you need your own 50 incher, and you get one for your parents, but not you.
Yeah, I did, but how small, man? You know, 50 inch was the biggest I could get for their space.
Did you set it up for them? Everything. Turn off motion smoothing. Make sure it was all done proper, nice and proper.
Yeah. It's all good. Took quite a while actually. Wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi, which is always fun, but we got it sorted in the end.
Right.
I kind of want to try hooking my Xbox up to it because it's way better than my TV, but I can't get a bigger TV in here, so I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah, my biggest gift was to myself, taking a break. No Windows Central, no writing, no social media BS. Taking a nice little break. So I'm pretty happy with that, man. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah, my honestly, my Christmas is just like any other day of the year, essentially. It's like no different than any other day. I think we had brunch and that was it, and that's pretty much how it always is. Nobody really exchanged gifts with each other. We don't really do that. And I don't really know why. It's just kind of the way it is. So it's whatever. It's fine. Don't expect anything. It's perfectly acceptable. Like nobody expects to get anything, so you don't get them anything. So it's just whatever.
Hanging out with family is always the best thing about Christmas.
So it can be the best thing, but it also can be the worst thing.
Why's that?
Well, when certain topics come up.
All right.
And then you're just like,
you
just kind of want to like leave and just go somewhere else, and you're just like, like I don't know about this,
the political discourse kind of stuff. Don't really have that issue in Britain, really. People know not to bring up certain things. I think I don't know. Maybe in some families, but. Yeah, Americans love their politics, man. It's really funny because I've played on both European and American servers for World of Warcraft and other online games. And you look in trade chat, World of Warcraft in America, it's all politics. Politics, or non-stop, 24/7 arguing about politics. And you go on Europe servers, no politics at all. Lovely, just meme spam and bullshit.
I think I did get my nephews a Christmas gift, but even still, they live all the way in Maine, So it's hard to really like send them anything. So, and the only thing they want is Roblox money.
Roblox.
So I literally went on Amazon on Christmas Day, and I bought them both $200 worth of Roblox money. And I texted my brother with the picture of the PIN number. And I was like, you know, tell the boys Merry Christmas. And that was it. You know, that's it. That they loved it because like they love Roblox and they spent, you know, they play it all the time. And I mean, when they were here this summer, like seriously, I think I must have spent like $300 on them. And then they would literally give him like $100 at a time, and he would spend $100 in like 10 minutes just buying things for his character or whatever. Yeah, Roblox is definitely a thing. So
that's funny.
Yeah. But we got some super chats here and we get through. We got Joshua B. Have a happy new year, Xbox 2. Here's the Kotick leaving Activision Blizz. Banjo Bros getting another lifeline. And Bethesda getting a kick in the pants to make Elder Scrolls 6 an even better game. Still love your Starfield. So yeah, I don't know if you saw this, Jez, but apparently there is a Banjo game in development. Did you happen to see this? Nate the Hate? Nate Drake? Yeah. Basically said, what did he say? He said that someone asked him, because he and MVG had come out and said that they had heard there was a Banjo game in development. I want to say that was last year or the year before. And, you know, Banjo hasn't shown up yet. The Banjo Bros are waiting, salivating, like, please give us a Banjo game, even though it's probably a disaster in the making. Nobody's going to play it. But anyways, you know, you got to do it. And he said, someone asked him what happened to the Banjo game, canceled? And Nate said, it's still an active project, but it didn't get the green light until early last year. There is a lot to do, and development can change a lot, like abandoned ideas, internal reboots, etc. So it sounds like, you know, it hasn't been in development that long. So, yeah, sounds like we'll see it eventually. And I'll be really happy for my Banjo Bros to get their Banjo game so we can stop hearing about Banjo every year. That's really the Christmas gift that keeps on giving, right?
I mean, Phil very heavily hinted at it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he said it in the interview he did with you.
Yes.
Right? And he says, like, his teases usually happen, but they may not happen on the timeline you want them to happen on, but they end up happening. So, yeah, I think... It makes you wonder.
It's basically a confirmation.
It does make you wonder why they didn't do a Banjo game when they knew Banjo was going to be in Smash, and kind of at least get some momentum off of that announcement. Instead, if we assume a typical release, I'm not saying like Banjo Remake or Banjo 3E is going to be a AAA production, so it's going to take 4, 5, 6 years. Let's just say it's a 3-year cycle. Let's just say they remake the first one and it only takes them 3 years. Maybe we see it in 2025. You know?
Yeah. Maybe.
And when did it come to Smash? At that point in 2025, it came to Smash when? Like, I don't even know when it came to Smash, but it definitely been years from that point, right? But
yeah, but my question about Banjo is who's making it, man?
That is the question. Who would be making a Banjo game? That is the question, and I don't know. I mean, you have Playtonic, and I don't know if they're busy with anything. I mean, those are ex-Rare people, right? The people who did like Ukulele and stuff. But you figured they would be. We know Rare is not going to be doing it. Who would be making a Banjo game? You know, my choice for a developer, Jez, was always, why don't you have Nintendo make it and then release it on Nintendo Switch and Xbox, but developed by Nintendo? You know? Like,
yeah, I mean, would Nintendo want to do that?
Probably not.
It's not something they've ever done before.
Probably not. It was just a thought I had. Like, why don't you have Nintendo make Banjo? And then you can just release it on the Switch and on Xbox and have it be a big game, you know? And actually have it also be a really good game because, you know, as much crap as I give Nintendo, even though some of it's for theatrical purposes, they do make pretty good platformers, you know? So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Banjo. Wagerman, he says, happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year to two of the best. How do you think Xbox will handle the summer showcase next year? With Xbox, ABK, Bethesda, and Directs, they could have a week worth of events. Yeah, that's one of the things we were going to talk about was like Xbox in 2024 and what to expect and things of that nature. So we'll definitely be talking about that because they do have a lot under their belt, right? They have everything essentially. Do you keep it all like the same? Obviously they've had Bethesda for a while and they still do QuakeCon. They just did BlizzCon, and I don't think they'll be getting rid of BlizzCon. I still think Xbox wants those studios to retain their cultural relevancy, their cultural identity. So I can't imagine they're being like, oh, we're not doing BlizzCon anymore. I think that'll still happen. And I know in recent years, for a while actually, the Call of Duty games are always revealed late in a year because it's not really that important to like reveal Call of Duty at a summer showcase anymore. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do to tie the ABK brand to the Xbox brand? Does Microsoft even want to tie the brands together? You know, if ABK, are ABK games, are they all going to be multi-plat? Are there going to be some exclusives? If they're all multi-plat, do you want that tied to Xbox? I don't know. There's questions there, and we'll talk about that a little later because I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do, but I one of the things I will say, I don't think they'll do a week worth of events personally.
No,
I can't. It'll be like one thing in one. It'll be probably just like every other summer showcase or E3, where it's just a hour and a half, 2 hour show, and that's it. But then they have more shows throughout the year. But we'll talk about that later. Lancelot says, love you guys, and found about Game Pass through this channel, but Starfield seems a bit about mid for me. A good game, but I was hyped. Hey man, it's not for you, it's not for you. Not every game is going to be for everybody, right? There's plenty of great games out there that I don't like just because of the type of game it is, so don't feel bad about it. There's plenty of other games in Game Pass out there.
Well, this is the thing about Starfield criticism. It's like, if you played it and you thought, this isn't for me, fair enough. But if you played it for like 800 hours and then go and leave a negative Steam review saying, I played this for 800 hours, it's trash, that's just weird, man.
It is weird. Or you see some of those Steam reviews that are like, giving it a thumbs down, just doing my part, you know what I mean? Like, nothing really said, no critiques, just I'm just here to pile on, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of does make you wonder, like, what about the game has made it like all the negative reviews to start rolling in? Because nothing in the game's changed from when the game really first launched. They've only, added more things, more options. The only thing I can think of is that there are some big YouTubers who did exposés on it recently. Really big YouTubers to make videos about it, and basically saying like it's no good or they didn't like it, which then you essentially have, the fans of those being like, yeah, I didn't like it too, even though I played it for 200 hours. It was a piece of shit. What do we call them? Lemmings, I think? Sheep? Can't have an opinion. Can't have an opinion of their own.
Yeah.
Afraid to say they like something when other people, say they don't. That type of stuff. Yeah. The Liz 22 says a few years ago there was a rumor Xbox would make Xbox Live online multiplayer free when there was enough Game Pass sub conversions. Do you know if this is still on the table, and does Game Pass numbers matter with ABK's revenue?
I mean, it was never a rumor. It was kind of like, it was an extrapolation because they said in interviews, like Phil sort of conceded that paying for multiplayer felt outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think content creators like us too, like I think we'd sort of commented on that and been like, yeah, we think they'll get rid of it eventually. But it was always within the context of they need something to replace that revenue because it's a lot of money. Game Pass Core, which is now Xbox Live Gold, sorry, choking there for some reason. Game Pass Core, which is Xbox Live Gold rebranded, basically, brings in a hell of a lot of money. To the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not something you can just just take away, because that they use that money to subsidize making games and making content, making hardware. So they can't just like get rid of it. And it's not like them getting rid of Xbox Live Gold would suddenly lead to a huge amount of uptake in other aspects of the platform. So it's not like all of a sudden everyone would ditch their PlayStation 5s and switch. They wouldn't. So all it would do would be to serve to make them less competitive, because you'd have PlayStation still earning revenue on live multiplayer, whereas Xbox wouldn't be, just to say that they don't have it. So yeah, it's a problem, and I think like maybe there is a future where both Sony and Microsoft get rid of it, because of something, they're replacing revenue with something else and stuff like that. But I think as long as one has it, the other will have it.
Get rid of it. I mean, PlayStation just raised the price of it by $20.
Yeah,
a year.
Exactly.
I mean,
something would have to replace that revenue to justify it. And the fact that like both platforms are now moving towards AI, which has additional server costs, it kind of furthers this idea that they're not going to get rid of it, I suppose. But
did you see Xbox kind of was in some hot water this past week, because they had like a season's greetings card with an AI thing, and people were upset. AI card or whatever it was.
Yeah, I saw Kotaku wrote that up, and it's like it was the biggest non-news I've ever seen in my life. Like, people taking offense because, Microsoft wanted to, just someone who had control of the ID Xbox account just took 5 minutes out of their day to create a fun little image macro from Bing and then slap it up onto the web, just to bring something nice to the timeline in what is otherwise a completely hellscape shitfest that is modern Twitter. Twitter was always bad, but it seems like it's worse than ever recently. And Kotaku wrote that up as like a hit piece.
Well, it's Kotaku. What do you expect?
Yeah, but then it was also like a load of like fake outrage from a lot of people, like, oh, pay an artist to make a tweet that you're going to see for 30 seconds. Seriously, it was the biggest non story I've ever seen in my life. The most false outrage. And then people were piling on against AI art and AI generated stuff, and it's like, bro, it's Christmas, man. Get some mulled wine and chill for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Xbox Live is I felt Game Pass would actually increase faster than it did. And I thought it would reach higher highs sooner. And I was like, well, I know that they view Xbox Live Gold as an archaic thing of the past. And I sort of felt like, oh, I bet you they want more and more people playing, instead of being like, all right, stuck behind this paywall. And if Xbox Gold reaches a certain threshold, they'd get rid of Xbox Live Gold. And well, they did, but they just renamed it. So it's like, yes, Xbox Live Gold is gone. And even Tim Stewart in his little comments were like, oh yeah, paying for multiplayer is antiquated, or whatever he said. And it's like, so we changed it to Xbox Game Pass Core, which you still have to play multiplayer on, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because they just changed the name. And it was like, all right, so it sort of feels like if there was ever a time you were going to get rid of it, maybe that time is now gone, right? Because now PlayStation has raised the price of its multiplayer access from, I want to say it was like $60 to $80 a year, right? Because they raised the price of each one of their 3 tiers. And for a long time, ever since like the 360 era, paying for online was always kind of a battlefield between them, right? Early PS3 was free. It was free online. And 360 was paid for. And I remember specifically, if you've been around as long as I have,
that's a long time.
It is a long time, but there were a lot of Sony devs out there that were making those games, like whether it was like the Insomniac multiplayer games with Resistance, and some of the other ones that would basically say, oh, imagine paying for multiplayer, right? Because they were trying to extol the virtues of the PlayStation platform, being like, why would you play for multiplayer? You can get, it's free over here. you have to pay $60 a year and multiply that by 6 years. So you're actually paying an extra $360, but you're not. Like, if you remember, there was a lot of mudslinging back then between PlayStation 3 developers doing multiplayer games and the 360 when you had to pay for it. And then obviously that all changed when PlayStation started to charge for it, and everything was on equal footing. It was $60. Nintendo came in with Nintendo Online, and they're charging for it, but people were somewhat okay with it because it was $20. And people always thought, like, well, why doesn't someone just get rid of it? Because if you got rid of it, you could really you could market it being like, play online for free here on Xbox, or play online for free here with PlayStation, and you'd have a huge advantage over your competitor. But you know what I think happened? I think the free-to-play games showed up, where, like, you could play for free. And Xbox was forced to remove the free-to-play games from underneath their paywall. And now the biggest multiplayer games out there are free-to-play regardless, and you don't need a multiplayer subscription. So it almost feels like that push to get rid of Xbox Live Gold multiplayer and PlayStation Plus multiplayer is gone, because the biggest games are already free. They're already free to play online. You know, everything else is like, okay, so we'll just have this little corner for, and they always add all these perks, like, oh, you'll get free games, oh, you'll get discounts. They try to make the subscription a little bit more enticing rather than just with Xbox Live, with Xbox Game Pass Core, with Xbox Game Pass Core actually being cheaper for multiplayer access than PlayStation, you don't really see anybody talking about it. You don't see anybody saying multiplayer access is $20 more expensive on PlayStation now. Nobody talks about it. Where if it was during the PS4 gen or the PS3 360 gen, that would have been a huge talking point about how multiplayer was more expensive on the other platform. But right now, it's just it's like that fight's over. It's done with. All the biggest games are free. $20 is $20. You know what I mean? I think we're past that point. I think it's something they'll always hold on to, because they know people will pay it. So, and it's a revenue stream that you can basically count on every single month, every single year. And I don't think it's going away anymore. I used to think it would go away, but not anymore.
Yeah.
We have William Karuna saying, do you know why As Dust Falls went to PlayStation? I mean, not the particular
publishing
reasons.
agreement expired. Similar to Lucky's Tale, yeah. That's basically what I was told. Similar to Lucky's Tale.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. Similar to Lucky's Tale. All right. Our buddy Sim Vendetta says, happy Friday, Rand and Jez. Thank you both for a great 2023. It's been awesome to get to listen to you both over the last 6 years, and look forward to 2024. That's right. I said to Jez on Christmas, is like, bro, you realize that in April we'll be going on our 7th year of Xbox 2 at that. Isn't that crazy?
Cool.
Like, this is we're doing it for 6 years. We're almost approaching episode 300. 300 episodes. Like, I don't know, when we first started this, did you think we would get this far? Did you think we'd be hitting an episode 300? Did you think we'd be having sponsors like Manscaped and everything else that, like, is that something that entered into your mind back in 2017 that we'd be here?
No, not at all. And still mind blowing. I constantly thinking about, like, how we can do more, and trying to figure out what's next. It's something I think about a lot,
Yeah. No, yeah, so do I.
You do. I mean, people in chat, I mean, we want to do the camera stuff eventually. But I do think a lot about, growing even further now, and what could we do to push to the next level and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see.
Next level, whatever that is. Cripple in Debt says, who do you guys think might stand a chance for VGA for best performance instead of Melina Juergens? I think she's a lock. Thanks for all your shows you do. I mean, for next year, it's too early to say, because we don't even know, like, all the games. I do feel like Hellblade 2 and Melina is probably a lock, at least to be nominated. I think she won for Hellblade 1. and she's probably doing more in this game, honestly. It seems like, at least. So she's probably a lock to be nominated again, if not to win. But like, we don't really know the rest of the games for the rest of the year. Maybe the actor for Ichiban for like the new Yakuza game.
Youngie.
No. Well, does Youngie do him? I thought Youngie did him for like the other Yakuza games.
I don't know, but like everyone was mad at that guy for the way that he did that. I don't know why personally. There was drama about that that I was vaguely familiar with, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We need to see what the games come out next year and actually play them to determine who is going to be nominated for best performance. Quicksilver says, "There's a small late Christmas gift for you, Rand. Merry Christmas. Love, Quicksilver and Aisha Silver." Thank you very much for the Christmas gift. We got Face23 PKNY with a very generous super chat, $100. He says, "In my opinion, the console space for Xbox is not going to change. They will keep it around like they do with the Surface device, even though it doesn't sell well. Microsoft Play is Game Pass, PC, mobile. Sony wants to expand on except for the Game Pass model. PlayStation Plus everywhere next." I mean, I don't think the console's going anywhere. At least not. What did we say, Jez? 2 more generations of console, and who knows, or at least 1 more generation, 2 more generations.
I think there's at least 2 more generations to go. You know, I mean, who knows what the future looks like? Because you got to remember, servers cost a lot. Cloud services have a lot of overheads and problems of their own. You know, and people think like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like, you know, non-stop cloud in the future, and it's kind of like, are we really? And I kind of feel like Microsoft designed their cloud specifically so they'd always be able to sell local hardware because it's identical to local hardware. So like, why wouldn't you just, if you've got to develop a version of that game anyway, why not just sell local hardware for people to use, and then you don't have to spend your own money on bandwidth, you know? Though in that scenario, the home console is a local cloud server, kind of. So for me, I kind of feel like as long as console gaming exists, you know, as long as cloud gaming exists, console gaming exists. You know, maybe everything eventually becomes PC based or something. I don't know, but I just can't. I don't know. I mean, the younger generations, they're all in on PC. You know, it's kind of it's interesting how console gaming is kind of seen as like almost like a boomer kind of thing to younger people. So
there's some younger people. You saw some of the videos where kids were crying getting their Xboxes and their PlayStations and stuff. It's not like a thing where it's like consoles are still seen as a boomer thing at all by the younger generation. There's plenty of people that, you know,
I think a lot do, man. I really do.
I don't know about that.
And not just those viral videos. Like even before then, I saw that, and it's kind of been suggested to me by people in the industry.
Well, I'm not saying kids aren't going to PC earlier than they have been, because I think they are, because I think they're influenced by their favorite influencers. They see like Shroud playing on it, or Ninja, or whoever else, and they want to be like their favorite person they watch, so they want to get a PC. Like, I think kids are moving to PC faster than they ever have been, but you know, I don't think the console's been too affected by that. I think people still love the consoles, and it looks like, you know, it's still the console market doesn't seem like it's growing. It's always the same amount of people. The PC
problem.
market,
Like, if that's exactly it, though. It's like, where's the growth of console manufacturers? You know, they might as well just go harder into PC. You know, probably from a lot of their perspective. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, Xbox is going pretty hard into PC.
Yeah,
they've embraced PC.
Go hard into PC, bro.
Well, I mean, you know, Face says PS Plus everywhere next. Now, if you were to bring PlayStation Plus to PC, Face, that means you got to have a whole bunch of PlayStation games on PC to be able to tie them to with. Does that mean PlayStation day one on PC sooner rather than later? Maybe, especially if you're abandoning your games as a service push or delaying your games as a service push. You know? I think like once they'll probably do it, like Helldivers 2 is coming out, and I think that's going to be day and date on PC. And maybe once they see the results and they see like it doesn't really impact console sales too much for them or too badly, they'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, hey, someone's got to pay for this $400 million budget for Spider-Man 3, right? If the PlayStation console business isn't growing, or if we're just transitioning PS4 users to PS5 users, like Jez suggested in the last episode, where are you going to get the extra people to buy your game? And it's like, well, there is one huge market you're completely ignoring, and that's PC. So,
yeah.
And mobile. You're kind of ignoring mobile too, but that'll all eventually come. Now, I mean, as far as Xbox consoles, like, is it selling well now? I mean, I would say probably not. If you're behind the Xbox One, to me, that's not where you want to be. Is that something that could change in the future? I think so. I think if you spend the rest of the generation releasing high quality content, I think that could potentially change the narrative around Xbox, and especially if you're got the marketing for Call of Duty, and maybe even if you break the cycle of always launching your console alongside, the more popular one, who knows? Maybe the Xbox launches in 2026. They got Call of Duty they can market. They got all these games from first party that are good launching as well. You never know. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying I don't think Xbox will ever sell 100 million consoles, but I'm saying like I think they could sell better than they are now, 100%.
Yeah.
What we got here? We have Justin Duell. He says, "Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Looking forward to more of Xbox 2 in 2024. Thank you. And we're looking forward to a big year in 2024. Hopefully. Fingers crossed." Commander Shepard, member for 42 months, says, "Have you heard any rumors, updates for the Indiana Jones video game? This is my favorite podcast on the Citadel." Haven't heard anything about Indiana Jones. I think the last thing we heard, well, it's not even like heard as in like behind the scenes, but Todd Howard did talk about, this was like around when Starfield time, about how the game was like halfway through development. And then we even heard about the pitch. Well, not about the pitch, but we did get that Axos article about why they decided to switch the exclusivity from Indiana Jones from multi-platform to exclusive. And one of the things that they did say was that the pitch they had for Indiana Jones was amazing. And it kind of seems to fall in line with the Blade pitch, because they also said the Blade pitch was incredible, So it seems like Machine Games went to Disney with a pitch for Indiana Jones, which apparently is Todd Howard's like favorite thing in the world, like his favorite franchise or whatever. And Disney loved it and was like, let's do an Indiana Jones game. And, eventually Arcane went to Blade, or Arcane came to them with the Blade pitch that they loved. They're like, okay, yeah, do Blade. I think people don't really understand how those things work. Because some people I see talk about like, oh, well, they probably asked them what other franchises they have, and then they're like, oh, we'll take that one. I don't think that's how that shit works. You're not just going to go up to them and be like, well, do you guys have Mando available? They're like, oh, but yes, by indeed, George, we do have Mandalorian available. Would you like to make Mandalorian? Gee, golly whiz, thank you, Disney sir. We would love to make Mando. We don't have a studio to make it now, but we'll take the Mando license or whatever. That's not how those things work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you saw going around this week, Jez, was the rumor about id Software working on a Mandalorian game.
Yeah, I did see that. I mean, it would be interesting.
Actually, I don't think it would be interesting. Do you want id Software to work on a Star Wars game? Think about that. Would you want id to work on hold on. Let me kind of set this up. An exclusive Star Wars game would be amazing, right? for the Xbox brand, for Game Pass, just in the same way that exclusive Marvel game is. However, I think it needs to fit the developer. And I'm not sure I would want id, the masters of Doom and Quake and everything else, to work within the constraints of the Star Wars license, making something that may not fit them. You know what I mean?
Well, yes and no. I mean, playing devil's advocate, right? Do you want another Doom game again? You know, would you rather they be working on that, or would you rather them, branch out? I'm not saying I don't want another Doom game eventually, but I think it'd be pretty cool to play as a Mandalorian in a game like on the same quality level as what Respawn's putting out with Jedi.
Sure.
No,
I mean, I would say if
kind of intrigued about
I would
that.
say if id actually pitched that they wanted to do a Mando game and that was what the studio wanted to do, then I'd be 100% behind it, because I'll be behind whatever it wants to do, right?
Right.
But I think this rumor's just been floating around for so long that people are grasping at straws, trying to make it seem like it is true. Like, oh, it is working on this. Do I think it's working on Mandalorian? No, I don't. Absolutely not. I do not think whatsoever that it is working on the Mando game. Not saying that there isn't a Star Wars game in development at Xbox somewhere, but, I mean, the ZeniMax Online game could easily be a Star Wars MMO. Maybe there's crossed wires or whatever, but if I were to put money down right now, and I mean, maybe I would lose my money, but if I was like betting with you, like if you were so sure it was Mando and I was so sure it wasn't, I would make a bet with you. I don't think it's Mando. I think it's whatever they want to do. It's probably a Quake game, to be honest with you. It's probably a Quake reboot. And you mean to tell me you wouldn't like a Quake reboot, a modern reboot of the Quake franchise?
Hell yeah!
I think there's reasons why they did Quake 1 and Quake 2 remasters.
Yeah, I think Quake is way more likely, and even Hexen. I think like the fact, Phil in the interview with me, he was one of the things he was saying was my teases aren't just to tease people. The dude specifically wore a Hexen t-shirt, and that hint for me hinted heavily at this idea that there would be a new Hexen game at some point. Personally, so, but again, then he sort of said, maybe not on the timelines people would expect or hope for. So maybe like they do Quake first and then Hexen next, and maybe that's what they got lined up, and maybe they're working on both at the same time. Maybe they've grown the studio or something.
The
like
Bethesda roadmap did have them, quote unquote, working on a Doom Year Zero.
But wasn't that proven to be not happening?
I mean, how could anything been proven? Because we don't know. They haven't announced what they're working on, but we have heard that they aren't working on Doom, or at least not Doom Year Zero. There are people that with good track records who have said as much.
Right.
Now, I guess you could say, well, would you rather have them working on Doom Year Zero or a Mandalorian game? As in, like, the Doom games aren't amazing, but I guess you're basically saying that, like, 3 Doom games in a row would be overkill. And not as, like, it's another Doom game. You know what I mean? Like, another one? I don't know. I guess it all depends. Like, I know there are a lot of people that love the idea of Arcane making Blade, right? Love that. But then there are some people I have seen be like that. They aren't totally on board for that, because they're like, I don't want Arcane to become a Marvel studio, because that's the fear now, right? They see what happened with Insomniac. Insomniac used to make all these different type of games. Now they only make one type of game, and they're essentially a Marvel studio, and they look like they're going to be a Marvel studio to the end of time, because that's what sells. So you have some people who really appreciate the creativeness and the original ideas that Arcane Leon makes. Even you may not enjoy Deathloop, you might actually appreciate what they were trying to do with Deathloop, right? Or the world they built with Dishonored. And some people don't want to see, if like Blade becomes a big success, Arcane Leon being relegated to the Blade factory, or,
Yeah.
you know, another Marvel studio, right? And, you know, some people say the same thing with id, one of the best developers out there, and it's like, do you want them just making another Marvel Star Wars property? Is that what this industry is turning into? Is just like, well, we're just making a Marvel or Star Wars game, you know what I mean?
No,
Or
I kind of feel that way too, because I don't really care for Marvel.
I know you
And
don't,
while
yeah.
like, yeah, and I would much rather they'd be working on Dishonored, or maybe they take over Prey or something like that. I love me some Prey, and it doesn't look like we're probably gonna get Prey ever again, because apparently the first game didn't sell or whatever. But I mean, I get that, and I do feel some sense of Disney fatigue, even though I haven't really been paying attention to Marvel, and I haven't really paid much attention to Star Wars. Just knowing how much there is out there is enough to give me fatigue, you know. But at the same time, I think, like, if it was a really good game, if Blade and any sort of Mandalorian game from id was actually a really good game, and maybe it could have the opposite effect. Maybe it could have me, rekindle my interest in that stuff. Because I haven't even watched the latest season of Mandalorian, because I'm still sort of burned out after watching the Book of Boba Fett, and that was ages ago. I haven't watched Andor either, even though that's supposed
see,
to be really good.
I watched Mando season 1 and season 2, but I didn't watch Boba Fett or Mando season 3. I think Mando
Yeah,
season 3 came out.
right.
But I did watch Andor, and Andor is fantastic.
Yeah, everyone says
Andor is really
Andor's
good.
fantastic. Yeah, I need to watch that.
But I don't know, like when I was watching the Mando, I felt like the end of season 2 was like, it kind of was like, felt like a series finale to me, almost, in a way. And like, I don't know, I wasn't really interested in Boba Fett or whatever. And I do feel like it is a missed opportunity that there isn't a Mandalorian game out there, like third person bounty hunter set in the Star Wars universe. Like, it feels like that is a game that should already been someone should have been working on already. You know?
It's kind of what Ubisoft's working on with Outlaws, in a way.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
Mandalorian. It's like the bounty hunter fantasy, I guess, or the smuggler fantasy. If we're
I
using
guess
Star
I'll
Wars
just say, like,
classes.
I want them to work on whatever they want to work on. So if id put a pitch in to work on Mandalorian and they're 100% behind it, like Machine Games was Indiana Jones and Arcane's behind Blade, then I'll be totally into it too, because it's like, all right, I just want you. If that's what you want, then that's what I want too. But I don't know. I don't think they're working on. I just don't think they're working on a Mando game. I think they're working on something unique to them, whether it's a Quake reboot or something else. Personally,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's about what the devs want, and when the devs are passionate, then you get awesome
yeah,
projects.
like seeing the passion of Dinga on stage at
Yeah,
the VMAs. You're just like, yeah, dude, I totally want them
yeah,
to nail
mate.
this Blade game. This seems like the game they've always wanted to make, and it's like, yeah, dude, awesome. Like, I want that. Like, I love seeing passion from people, regardless of whether it's video games or it's movies or TV shows or it's YouTube videos or it's books. I love seeing unbridled passion for a project that an individual's doing or like a team is doing. It's really infectious, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Cheesy McSqueezy. He says, "Hey Jez, have you heard anything since the tweet from the insider Millie A from October of 2021? Oh man, it's 2 years ago at this point. Who claimed,
What?
quote, Xbox have secured some sort of exclusivity on a big third-party title." I mean, I remember this person.
I did not remember that.
I do. I remember it. It was just one of those things where it was like, is this person actually an insider? What do they really know? And it's kind of vague enough where it's like, it could be anything. You know what I mean? Like, I
don't think that's it.
we haven't seen or heard anything from whatever that claim is. And there's always, of course, things change. Blah 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 blah. But no. Humdrug says, Humdrug Dog says, beat Baldur's Gate 3 and watched BR 2049. Feels so empty. Boo Jez.
What?
He says he beat BG3 and watched BR 2049 and he feels so empty. Boo Jez. What does that mean, Jez?
BR? Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049 is awesome.
Yeah. But he says he feels empty. Is he empty because you just watched something incredible and you know you won't have it again? Or you finished Baldur's Gate 3 and you watched Blade Runner and now you're like, my life has no purpose and no meaning anymore?
I mean, Blade Runner kind of does give you that feeling, especially when you factor in that there probably won't be another one because it didn't do very well, which is a crime. It's a crime. It's a crime that Avatar does well, right? But Blade Runner didn't. That's a crime. That's a crime against life itself. So,
dude, Blade Runner was amazing. You know,
it was amazing.
Who was amazing? Ryan Gosling. And
Jared. Oh, okay.
Ryan Gosling. And I just watched Barbie the other day. And Ryan Gosling is the best thing about that movie. He completely nails every single scene he's in. Dude should be nominated for an Oscar. Like, he's such a good dramatic actor, but dude, he might be an incredible comedic actor. Like whenever he's on screen, it was so funny. Like I was like, oh, Ryan Gosling, you absolutely nailed this role, bro. Congrats.
That's awesome.
I also did watch Oppenheimer as well. Have you got a chance to watch Oppenheimer?
I did. I saw it in the movie theater, actually.
I finally got around to watching it and like, oh my lord, what a masterpiece.
It's all right.
What do you... Excuse me?
It's all right. Not as good as Alien Resurrection.
Shut up. Nobody even remembers Alien Resurrection.
What podcast was on? We're talking about that. I thought it was our podcast. Oh, I don't know. I was on some podcast talking about
yeah, that was ours because you were talking about James Cameron and his movies and how The Abyss was like the only good one or whatever, and we were like, "The hell are you talking about?"
Everyone was mad.
Yeah,
it's true though. Abyss is the only good James Cameron movie. Nah, actually, Terminator 2. Do you mind Terminator 2, right? Terminator
2 is fantastic.
Yeah, and Aliens 2 is okay, but Abyss is great.
I mean, I will agree with you. Abyss is great. A lot of James Cameron movies are great, though. AAG Vantida says, "Good to."
But not Avatar.
Nah, not the first one. Good to catch it live again. I hope the 2026 next gen rumor is true. Like Nintendo, time for Xbox to do its own thing. I mean, if the 2026 rumor is true, Jez, we're getting close to finding out. I mean, how early did you get the information about Lockhart and Anaconda and Scarlet? Was it 2 years ahead? Was it a year ahead? I forget. When did all that stuff break for you? Like you and Brad Sams had that stuff. It was like E3 one year, wasn't it? Was it like E3 2018 where like you guys were like, "Oh, breaking news, Project Scarlet," and like all like the info about the next gen plans came out. It was like 2 years before, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have to credit Zach Bowden on Windows Central, actually, because he was the very first one. And I think he had the first scraps of data about Lockhart all the way back like 3 years before it was announced. So Zach's really like our hardware dude. And he just leaked a bunch of Surface stuff as well on Windows Central this week. And Microsoft's going hard on AI hardware for its next generation stuff, which kind of gives you hints about the next Xbox, right? But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get something soonish.
What does AI hardware even look like? What does that even? What does it even do? I don't understand. What does it do?
Well, the idea is that you have a AI coprocessor, which sort of it does some of the AI processing locally, so it doesn't explode Microsoft's servers, I guess, too much. I think that's the idea behind it. If it works out that way in practice, remains to be seen, I guess. But we'll see, right?
Did you see the news about New York Times suing OpenAI and Microsoft?
I did see that.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the idea of like they didn't give them permission to train their models on their stuff, and how do you think that's going to play out?
I think it's going to play out of court.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be settled. Okay.
Yeah, I think Microsoft will just be like pay them a shitload of money to make it go away, and hope that other people don't sue. I mean, my company's got huge grounds to to explore litigation on this because it's not even like New York Times that's really feeding this model. It's also like all the guides we write, and there are articles that we write that no other website has written with regards to really obscure issues on how to fix on Windows. But now Bing Chat and Google and all these other services have just come along and stolen all that and not given us any compensation whatsoever. So yeah, I hope New York Times sues the pants off them and they get loads of money because that'd be fun. Because I think it is egregious. I think it is egregious that these companies just stole all this copyright material and then they were just like, we'll deal with it later. They'll deal with it later because they've got the backing of Microsoft to get away with it. I think that is egregious. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all that.
Yeah,
Maybe nothing.
Cheesy McSqueezy says, you can't predict everything, Rand. Look at Arcane. In the leak, there was mention of Dishonored 3, yet they're working on Blade instead.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, yeah.
True.
I mean, it could have
changed,
Could have been Arcane Leon working on Dishonored 3.
That's true.
We don't know. And that was just the plans as of 2020. So maybe Dishonored 3's on there. I don't know. We don't know. Mr. Opinionated says Xbox Studios shouldn't stay one note, and they won't. I mean, there's plenty of variety within Xbox Game Studios. Lou said what says people afraid Arcane will become a Marvel studio wouldn't make sense considering Xbox current philosophy. They let devs do what they want. I'm just saying what people are afraid of. I'm not saying it makes sense of what people are afraid of. Just that, some people didn't want Arcane to be working on a licensed IP.
Yeah.
Bean says petition for Jez to stop hating on Persona 5. You never hated on Persona 5?
No, I mean,
you just didn't finish it.
The only thing I said about Persona was that it was too easy, but then I realized that the game has difficulty levels, and maybe it's my own fault that I'm finding it too easy. So if I play it again, and I'm supposed to because of the bet, I'll crank the difficulty up, and maybe I'll feel more engaged. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the Starfield stuff, Jez.
Sure.
Shall we? Got Starfield playing in the background right now. I felt it was appropriate. And part of the title is Starfield Success and Hate, right? Now, we know what it did on MPD in its launch month. I think it was number 1. It's like the 9th best-selling game of the year, maybe the 10th best-selling game of the year so far. It's on Game Pass. We know the accolades that Satya said caused the most signups in Game Pass history, day 1 signups, and all the engagement. And we didn't talk about it last week because we were talking about the Insomniac hack and all the wonderful, well, depending on where your stance, all the very interesting information that came out from the Insomniac hacks. Yes, you remember those, Jez?
Yes.
We were talking about all the websites that took a moral stand, and we were talking about like some of the numbers that came out from the leak about AAA gaming and the budgets and all that sort of stuff and all those sort of things. But one of the things we didn't really mention because there just wasn't time because there was 4 of us was the numbers that Starfield and Bethesda had put out in regards to like player numbers and things of that nature. Engagement numbers for Starfield. And they said they have 13 million players, which is quite a bit. I think they hit 10 million really fast, and then it sort of seemed to slow down a little bit. So they have 13 million players, 22,284,331 days played, 26,027,845 hours building ships, almost 2 billion planets visited, 4.5 million outpost settlers, which not me because I didn't do any outpost settling, but 40 hours average playtime per player, right? Which for a game,
very high.
Yeah, it's very high, especially for a game on Game Pass, because what Game Pass does is reduces the friction where it's like, okay, I bought this game and I need to get my money's worth, so I'm gonna keep on playing it. Versus like Game Pass, where it's like, well, I'm paying for the service. I'm gonna play Starfield. Oh, I don't like Starfield. 2 hours in, and I just delete it. Right? We have seen that with games on Game Pass, where because the friction of actually playing the game, people will drop games they don't like instantly because there's you don't got any skin in the game, right?
Yep.
So that was that about the numbers, which I thought 40 hours playtime is pretty high for a game in Game Pass. It's on PC. I was like, that's pretty good. May not be as high as like Skyrim or what have you, but I was like, damn, that people are getting their time's worth. And then articles started coming out about, hey, Starfield's going to end the year as a mixed rating on Steam, yes?
Yes.
Because you can't really see user reviews totality on like the Xbox store, even though they are there. You can see the numbers and you can see the star rating it does get. But nobody ever writes articles about that. People write articles about Steam reviews and Steam player counts. And so like it was like the most recent one was what? Like it was like 7,000 recent reviews, and they were mostly negative for like mixed overall, but there was like the total number of reviews was like really high, but it was mixed. And obviously a lot of websites wrote about it. And it just kind of it's the culmination of Starfield being the most talked about game of the entire year, right?
Yeah.
There was the article that from gamesindustry.biz that came out a couple weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago at this time, where it was like the most covered games of the year. And I remember I posted it in response to someone that said like, man, nobody talks about Starfield anymore. And I'm like, sure, dude. What are you talking about? It's literally the most talked about game of the whole year. Where it was the most covered games was Starfield. Number 1, Starfield, with 53,000 articles. Right? Number 2 was Diablo 4, 51,000. And then you'd go, number 3 was Zelda with 39,000. Fortnite was number 4. Spider-Man was number 6. Right? And even the most covered company, Jez, Xbox, was the most covered company with 308,000 articles, which was down 16% year over year. PlayStation was number 2 at 268. Nintendo was number 3 at 244. Activision Blizzard was up 172% at 80,000. So I saw this as like, man, how is Xbox the most talked about company, most covered company, when like it sort of seems that a lot of people just don't like Xbox in general, like in the media, that they don't really cover it, but they do. But then there's Starfield, the most covered game, and I'm just like, man, for a game that a lot of people seem to didn't enjoy, or at least say it's like so mid, and for a company that everybody says is irrelevant, they're doing pretty good getting covered, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's paradoxical.
It's
I suppose you could say paradoxical, right?
But yeah, but in regards to the Steam situation, I see people posting stuff like, yo, I played this game for 150 hours and it's trash. And I just have to sit there and I'm thinking, I'm like, you played a game you didn't like for 150 hours? What is wrong with you? Seriously. Like, or I see people that say, yo, I played the game for like 180 hours, dude. And I was totally enjoying myself. Like, I was vibing. And then once I finished the game, I looked back on my experience and it was just so empty, bro. I have to give it a 4 out of 10. And I'm just sitting there reading these reviews of people that put exorbitant amounts of time into Starfield, where they literally say they liked the game that they were playing, only to then at the end being like, but I hated it. And I was like, I don't understand. Help me understand, Jez. What is going on? How could this be? How are people playing a game so long, admitting they liked it while they played it, and at the very end being like, but actually, when I look back on my time, it was pretty shit.
It is really strange. Like, I've been, before doing this professionally, I've always been in the discourse, right? I remember being a little kid arguing about whether Final Fantasy or Zelda was the better RPG style in the playground, right? So there's always these kind of discussions and stuff. I don't know, in my lengthy time covering games and following games and talking about games, where like a non-service game, because like if it's a service game and an update makes it worse, then yeah, that makes sense. But nothing has changed in the game since launch. I've never known a game sort of launch out the gate, be, to quite broad critical acclaim, but then some reviews, including my own, rightfully calling out certain aspects of the game that aren't so strong, like the exploration. But then mostly being like, well, actually, there's so much cool stuff about it. And then the sentiment of the game gradually going downhill over time. It's so strange. I've never known anything like it before. And I think there's a few reasons for it. I think the first thing is that like people kind of, I don't know, are backlashing a little bit to the way the way Bethesda responded to some of the reviews, because they were like, people were criticizing things like the exploration, and then Bethesda community managers came in and were like, well, actually, your experience is incorrect because planets are like this in real life.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. I mean, I get why you would respond to Steam reviews, but telling people like, your experience is wrong is never really the way to go.
No. So I think that there's that aspect of it. But even before they did that, the backlash had already begun. I kind of feel like people were, I mean, they were responding to that meme in the first place that the exploration's bad. And the exploration is bad. I kind of feel like that was a mistake on the developer's part to sort of, not decide whether they wanted to make an RPG or make a true exploration simulation game with procedural generation. They really sort of, they didn't know which direction they wanted to go in, and there aren't enough points of interest. There's not enough variety of points of interest to make the procedural generation work, in my opinion. And also, there's loads of oddities like not having vehicles, and stuff like that. There's problems. No one in their right mind would deny that. I kind of feel like. However, the game also has a lot of things going for it. Like the main quests are awesome, and they're all awesome, and they're all varied, and they all offer something different. And there's also loads of different ways to tackle those quests. The cities that are sort of not procedurally generated are very, very well designed and memorable and awesome, and they look really cool. And I also think the combat's quite good. I think the itemization is not very good, but this is a problem that all creation engine games have had. And I think that is also part of the backlash round. I think another part of the backlash is that long-time players of Bethesda games, from Skyrim to Fallout 76 even, feel like their criticism of Fallout 4 were not heard correctly as well. Because I know like a lot of the mistakes that Starfield makes with its itemization, with its combat even, these are mistakes that Fallout 4 made. The procedurally generated loot in Starfield is trash, like it's trash in other Bethesda creation engine games, and they've never really addressed that fact. And I think people feel like they didn't address the uncanny, creepy NPCs as well. In fact, you could argue that Starfield's NPCs are even creepier than Fallout's NPCs. Even without the ghouls and stuff like that. So I think like some of the backlash is that Bethesda seems to not want to address some of the long-standing issues with its engine, right? And whether it's combat, whether it's optimization, whether it's NPCs, whatever. But again, there's people have to remember that, we, for some reason, we accepted those shortcomings with Skyrim and Fallout 4, and found enjoyment anyway, because there's still a lot of stuff to enjoy even with those shortcomings. I think a lot of people kind of just want Bethesda to sort of, I don't know, push to a next level instead of kind of doing similar kind of thing over and over again, and sort of seeing how far they can push their engine, without sort of adding new aspects to it. Like the fact there's no ground vehicles is just weird, and that's the kind of technical investment I think people would have liked to have seen from advancing the game. So I think there's some backlash against that they haven't really addressed some of that stuff. But also, I think a lot of the backlash is just silly. And some of it's like people are hive minding. They don't even know why they're really mad. They're not even like long-term Bethesda fans or Bethesda game players. And they just saw like their favorite YouTuber or whatever talk trash about the game. And now they're like, yeah, I'm going to talk trash about the game as well because that's what everyone else is doing. And I think like there is that aspect of it as well. I think it would be naive to not suggest that there is a bit of a hive mind going on. And also like we see it a lot from, you know, and like you get sort of YouTube creators feeding that, and then sort of journalists see that as a trending way to get clicks, and they sort of echo that, and then the audience echo it and mirror it, and it sort of becomes like an echo chamber bouncing backwards and forwards. And oftentimes, like when you see like a hater, especially like someone on Twitter who's got like, you know, a branded YouTube account, and they've got like, they've got like a God of War profile picture or something like that. You ask them like, so what did you actually think of Starfield? They can't really tell you because they're just on the bandwagon, right? So I think it's like a three-pronged attack. I think there is legitimate things that Bethesda should take stock of and try and address. And they kind of hinted that they do want to address this stuff. They kind of hinted that there will be vehicles coming. They said there'll be new ways to travel in updates and stuff like that. So they kind of hinted at some of that stuff. And I kind of get the sense that it would benefit them to be a little bit more transparent about what these updates will have. I mean, especially seeing as how the difference between how Blizzard, you know, as a company that I follow a lot, as a gamer, the difference in how like Blizzard is being transparent and how Bethesda's being untransparent is quite stark. Like Blizzard's given us like these huge month-long roadmaps for its games, and yeah, they are service games, but like, you know, if you're out here in interviews talking about like you want people to play Starfield for the next 10 years, you have to treat it like a service game. I know it's not multiplayer, but you kind of hinted that you do want to update it in perpetuity and you do want to add more content to it. Give people a roadmap. You know, why aren't you giving people a roadmap? And is that a Microsoft thing? Does Microsoft want to save it for a marketing beat or something like that? Or is Bethesda just like really stuck in their ways and precious about how they do things and they don't want to give a roadmap? I kind of think like in today's era of social media commentary and creators and stuff sort of making fun about things, I think it would benefit them a lot to give people a roadmap and get people excited and sort of offset some of this negativity. You know, so there's that aspect too. I don't know, man. I sort of like, I think history will be kind to Starfield. You know, I think this is sort of like a temporary thing, and you know, down the line, I don't think, I was going to say it'll have its redemption story, but it doesn't even need a redemption story. The game's solid already. You know, the game has bugs and quirks, but it's still the most polished game Bethesda's ever shipped, I kind of feel like. And the story quest was solid, and it was a feature complete game, which is, you know, kind of rare in this day and age AAA gaming, right? But I do think history would be a lot kinder to Starfield than some people are being right now. But I do think Bethesda aren't doing themselves any favors. They could be more transparent with the audience and give people a better idea of what the roadmap looks like. I think the community managers aren't doing themselves any favors with the way they're talking on Steam to, you know, today's entitled youth and, and stuff like that. But I think overall, I think the game will be fine, and I think, yeah, it's just one of them things.
Well, Mr. Opinionated said in the Super Chat, he says, I think some content creators are influencing some negative opinions. There's some big content creators that have made some exposed videos about Starfield. But even still, with all the negativity that surrounds the game, it still was in Steam's platinum tiers for revenue. One of the highest revenue earning games of the whole year on Steam, and even in like time played and other scenarios. So like, as much shit is being talked about the game, whether rightly or wrongly, people playing the game for 300 hours but suddenly deciding they hate the game for whatever reason, people played Starfield a whole shit ton, and Starfield made a whole bunch of money on Steam, and it drew a whole bunch of Game Pass subscribers on Game Pass and made a whole bunch of money there, you know, and Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a reaction to a game like this. Even so much so where you get people comparing it to Cyberpunk. They're like, oh, Cyberpunk. But they're comparing it to Cyberpunk now, 3 years later with the big update versus like Starfield, what just came out, I think was like, you're talking about like arguing in bad faith. Where it's like, why don't you compare it to Cyberpunk that came out in 2020? You know, the game that was removed from PlayStation Store. The game that if you wanted a refund, no matter how long you played it, you get a refund because of how crappy and buggy it was, right?
Yeah.
But no, let's compare it to the Cyberpunk that had 3 years of updates. You know, like why don't we go back and then compare Starfield in 3 years in 2026 and see what that game's going to be like and how improved it may or may not be. Very, very weird behavior. Very weird.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's some aspects where it's like some people are just rooting for it to fail because it's Xbox, right? So it's Xbox, and there are PlayStation-centric creators, PlayStation-centric fans, and PlayStation-centric journalists probably who are rooting for it to fail, you know, because they root for Xbox to fail.
How dare
on the
you
down
skip
low.
PlayStation?
Yeah, kind of stuff, you know, and also Microsoft bad, Microsoft big bad, they're big mean corporation, and they stole Bethesda from us, so we're gonna retroactively convince ourselves that we hated Bethesda all along, you know. And I actually personally know people who've gone through this cognitive bias where, like, you know, the 5 stages of grief where they're a PlayStation person, but they're also a big Bethesda fan, right? They love Fallout, they love their Fallout, they love their Skyrim. They can't stand the idea of Microsoft owning those properties and the idea that they'll have to buy it on PC, get it on cloud, or get it on Xbox or whatever. They can't stand this idea. So now they've sort of begun retroactively convincing them, and these are friends of mine that I know personally. I'm sure there's some of this generally as well. It's not unique to my friend, but they've retroactively started to convince themselves that they don't like. They never liked Bethesda games in the first place, man.
Of course.
They never liked it in the first place.
Of course.
So, you know, it's kind of one of them. You know, it's going to be tough for Microsoft to ever sort of cut through some of this negativity. I kind of feel like they've got like a ton of bad press on the Microsoft's corporate side that's sort of historical and legacy. You know, there's people out there just hate Microsoft because of Microsoft, and they've been around for so long, and they've done a lot of annoying and bad stuff, frankly. And I'm not very happy with them either. The way they're sort of handling this AI stuff and stealing the copyright and all that kind of stuff. You know, blowing up energy use and using up all the water to power data centers so people can generate memes more effectively. I do think Microsoft is at its core a corporation, and while there are individuals at Microsoft who really do care and try and do their best to sort of you know, limit the potential damage of the company, you know, I do kind of feel like they as an entity overall, Microsoft could do a lot better, no doubt about it, you know. But you also have to sort of, you know, try and take things on balance. They're not all evil, you know. They're not this sort of, at the end of the day, they're still made up by people who do want to make games that are fun, and nobody at Bethesda was like, yeah, we're not going to include ground vehicles just so this specific content creator gets screwed over, or these specific fans feel slighted, and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. It's just sort of weird how people just have to, you know, just can't let things go sometimes in some ways. And yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be putting up with this kind of FUD life for quite a while, I kind of feel like. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, eh? There's not much you can do about it.
You know, our buddy Paris Lilly of Gamertech Radio and Kind of Funny Xcast,
Paris,
he had a tweet right after Christmas that said, Starfield is the engagement MVP for 2023. Regardless of how you felt, no game got as much and continues to get as much engagement as Starfield in 2023. He is absolutely 100% right.
It's true.
How many articles was written this year about Starfield?
A lot.
Even before the release, talking about like how it needs to save Xbox and needs to be this like 10 out of 10 game, or comparing it to like, oh well, Starfield's not like Mass Effect, like all those PC Gamer articles that it came out where it was like they use Starfield and everything, and afterwards talking about Starfield all the time. Like if you wanted engagement, you put Starfield in that title and you compared it to some other game or some other thing, and it worked.
Yeah, people are rooting for it to fail, no doubt about it, and that's reflected in the clicks. That's reflected in the engagement. You know, people on both sides are talking about it. You know, I couldn't write an article about, I don't know, some game no one cares about and expect to get clicks out of it, because you know, why would people click on it? They don't care about it. But the thing about Starfield is people on both sides, quote unquote, care about it. Like people who are Bethesda fans long time, you know, even if they're not console warring, maybe they feel slighted because of Fallout 76. Still a lot of negative energy about Fallout 76, like, and this idea that Bethesda betrayed Fallout fans by, instead of making Fallout 5, they went and made Fallout 76, which is a sort of it was a cash grab, you know. And there's you know, you can buy some microtransactions for days and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, kind of like Bethesda was in a sort of bad place and they needed to find something that could be a cash cow in an era where everyone's got their Fortnite, Minecraft, and Call of Duty game subsidizing the more creative stuff you want to do. So like Fallout 76 was a great business decision at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people still resent them for making a business decision on Fallout 76 rather than a creative one. You know, and Fallout 76 is by far and away the most successful Fallout game in terms of revenue ever. You know, there's no way to beat around that bush. The fact that it's got microtransaction, it's always online, is always going to produce better margins than an offline single player game.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot. People have a stake in this race, like whether they're a scorned PC Bethesda fan of the old Bethesda, or whether they're a PlayStation fan who hates Xbox, or whether they're, you know, an Xbox fan who wants to see the game succeed, or, you know, or just someone who's curious about this game that everyone's talking about. It's a viral game, you know. But I do think Bethesda could handle it better, and Bethesda could probably explore ways to adjust to this era they now find themselves in, which, you know, they've earned for themselves in some ways with things like Fallout 76, with things like the way they reacted to the reviews on the thing, and the way that Bethesda and Xbox don't seem to be fully on the same page in some ways. You know, like the fact that, you know, Blade didn't have Xbox logos in the trailer, and it was unclear if it's exclusive and that kind of stuff, because Bethesda wants to do things their way. There's nothing wrong with that, but these are the kind of confusing messages that are going to produce these kinds of, I don't know, gaps in the narrative that can be exploited by bad actors, I suppose you could say, if I'm talking about it from like the perspective of a PR dude who wants to manage how people feel sentiment-wise about these platforms. But it's an interesting discussion, and I think history will be tied to Starfield eventually, and I think Bethesda will find its footing and its place in this brave new world of social media FUD and sheep who can't think for themselves. And
I'm looking forward to Shattered Space. I'm looking forward to the expansion. Hopefully, I would imagine we get that DLC probably in the year anniversary, September of 2024. Here's Shattered Space. So. Hopefully it's nice and meaty, but I do agree with you. I think a roadmap would be much appreciated. When to expect, you know, a lot of the live service games have that, like, oh, what to expect in this season, or in this season, and this season, and sometimes they get delayed a week or two. But I think it would be cool to see what's coming to Starfield, because they did say they're planning on updates every 6 weeks for stuff. It'd be interesting to see what is coming to the game. And I don't know, I've just never seen the reactions to games where it's like, I played it for 200 hours and I just hated every second of it. It's like, why'd you play for 200 hours then? I don't understand.
It is so weird.
Like I played. So yeah, it's like if I don't like a game, I'm done. I'm like a couple hours in, that's it. And I hate hearing from people, well, just play it for 20 hours, then it gets good. You know, like what do you hear it from Final Fantasy 13 or whatever, where you have to play it a certain amount of time.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I don't got time like that. There's so many other things I could be doing with my time. It's like, I just don't got 20 hours to burn, on something to see.
It's so weird you mentioned Final Fantasy 13 because I literally buy into that. I can't remember what it was. I saw a meme about Final Fantasy 13 and I was like, should I give it another go? Should I try and get to that 30-hour mark to when it gets good kind of thing? Because I really hate that I don't like that game. Because I
like Final Fantasy 13. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't play the sequels, a lot of people did. But I ended up really liking Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm morbidly curious about it.
Yeah, we got a super chat here from Joshua B that says the reason the time suit is significant is that they historically sue for legal precedent, not settlements. Love Xbox, but Microsoft needs accountability. Okay, well, we'll see how that all goes down. Dead Planet says, outside of Elder Scrolls, Call of Duty, which announced Xbox game do you each think will have the biggest zeitgeist, oh my god, I need an Xbox now impact?
Good question.
I would say I'll just throw a game out there. Because, like, I could say Hellblade 2 because it's my most anticipated, but I think people know what Hellblade is. And I think, like, Hellblade could have that zeitgeist moment if, like, you wake up one day and you see the Metacritic score and Hellblade 2 is a 93. Not saying it will be a 93, but kind of similar to what happened with Elden Ring. You remember when Elden Ring came out and the reviews were, like, a 96, and suddenly people were like, oh my god, I need to play Elden Ring. Even though a lot of the people who played Elden Ring clearly never played a Dark Souls game in their life, but they saw that the reviews for the game and they were like, I need to play this, right? Whereas, like, if Hellblade 2 reaches that level, I think when you get into that rarefied air, then that becomes like, oh my god, I need to play this, right? But I won't mention Hellblade. I'll mention a different game. And it's obviously really easy to say a new IP. Right, a new IP, but it's like, whatever. I'll just say Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark?
Yeah, mainly because we don't know what it looks like. We don't know really what it's going to play like. So I think when that game finally gets revealed, the gameplay and everything, I do believe Crystal Dynamics is a great developer. They've made incredible games. I think that you could see that and you'd be like, oh shit. Okay, Xbox, I see you. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's just throwing a game out there. What about for you?
Gears.
Ooh, Gears. Okay.
I think Gears is kind of known, and I think people have nostalgia for it. And I think the next Gears is really going to push to a new level, and it's going to pull in people that have never played Gears before. And I think it's going to be that game where people are like, "Damn, I actually need this. This is really good." And I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be an event.
Well,
right?
Speaking of Gears, I'm glad that you brought this up. Speaking of Gears, because there's been a lot of talk recently about them showing something Gears related next year. Because the Gears of War account tweeted out "Happy Holiday Gears," right? And then I think it was like the lead level designer Benjamin Hayu on Twitter said, "See you in 2024" with the fist bump. And he said #GearsFam. So a lot of people are saying that this is 100% confirmation that something Gears related will be shown. Because why else would this guy said see you in 2024, right?
Did he delete the tweet?
I don't think he deleted the tweet. I think it's still up there. But I mean, it obviously could mean anything. It could just mean like, hey, see you guys in 2024, right?
Because it's new year.
Because it's a new year. But we've been waiting for a while for the new reveal of the new Gears game.
That's right.
It could be this year, right? Like, you would Gears 6. It's been a while, man. 2019, and that marks like 5 years, and we haven't heard anything from the Coalition since then. I mean, they dropped the Matrix demo for Unreal Engine. I'm sure they're hard at work trying to get the Unreal Engine under control and making it the best it can be. outside of Epic themselves. But what if I floated an idea to you and I said to you, what if Gear 6 is the launch title for the next Xbox? What if they reveal it this year, 2024, right? Which I think it's possible. And it's like, okay, well, if we're doing Gears and we got a Gears collection coming, but, those rumors about a new Xbox coming in 2026, they seem like it could be real, right? But, like, what if you launched the next Xbox with the next Gears? Even though it would be cross-gen, but, like, you launched... Because it's like, even if you reveal Gears in 2024, probably not coming to 2025, and things take a bit, maybe it gets delayed, but how would you feel if Gears 6 was a launch title for the next Xbox Next in 2026? How would you feel about that?
I'm absolutely, completely down for that.
You're down for that? Awesome. You're down for that?
I'm down and ready, bro. Bring it on, baby.
I mean, how do you feel about, like, the idea of Xbox breaking out from the cycle of always launching new hardware against PlayStation and kind of doing it Switch style, doing their own, marching to the beat of their own drummer and launching earlier than expected, cutting this gen short? Like how do you feel about that?
I think I'm good with it. I think, like, if Microsoft's talking about, they're in interviews talking about they can't beat PlayStation, then why keep following that beat? Just go and do your own thing, man. I mean, the next Xbox is probably going to be quite unique. They're going to have this rumored AI co-processor, which is going to, like, potentially let you do things like automatically create intricate Minecraft maps and intricate, maybe forge maps for Halo, and maybe even mods for Starfield. Maybe you'll be able to just say to your Xbox, create me a mod that actually does add full dismemberment to the game, and AI will make it happen. That's the kind of the kind of direction that they want to go in for AI, where it's like, you with no programming knowledge, you can make maps, create modes, and do all kinds of weird stuff using an AI that's on board, maybe offloads some compute to the cloud, and knows how to produce those results based on what you prompt it, basically. And I think obviously there's also graphics stuff that they'll do down the line as well, machine learning, with AMD, post-processing graphics, super resolution, maybe even frame generation. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of cool stuff they can do, and it's potentially going to be stuff that Sony won't be able to do, at least to the same level, unless Sony, like, partners with some other company for a large language model. Maybe they partner with Facebook, maybe they partner with Amazon or Google or someone. I don't know. Maybe Sony just does it themselves. I mean, there's no reason why Sony potentially couldn't do that as well. I mean, it'd be interesting if they did do it. I'd be intrigued to see what that looks like if they did do it. But yeah, I don't see any reason why Microsoft needs to keep going up against Sony directly. I think it'd serve them really well if they didn't, to be honest. Give them complete spot in the limelight, especially if, like, they can line up all the games and stuff, like, like stuff like Gear 6. Yeah, I'm down for that. Do you have any other thoughts on that? Well, I want to know what chat thinks as well. What do you think, chat?
What does chat think? Yeah, what does chat think?
Yeah.
How do you feel about, like, Gears being a launch title for next gen, or even next gen coming in 2026? I know we briefly talked about this couple episodes ago, but maybe it seems like it could be a possibility, and we know Xbox has a ton of games in development. Are you okay with Microsoft shorting this gen? Are you okay with this gen and the Xbox Series X and S hardware never really reaching its full potential? I mean, that's something that you would have to be discussed about.
This is the thing, man. It's like, we've kind of moved away from the concept of generations anyway. We're kind of more like phones now, where everything's backwards and forwards compatible. You've got your Xbox One, S, and X still getting games. And it's not like the games launched on there are broken or anything. Call of Duty, Fortnite, Minecraft, and FIFA all still get released and updated on the Xbox One S, for God's sake. So in that sort of universe where they're still updating the older consoles, it sort of doesn't make sense to think of it like a cutoff anymore. And I think a lot of us do think of it as a cutoff because we're nostalgic about that cutoff. And Sony even played into that in some of its commentary, like, oh, we believe in generations. And then, well, you didn't actually believe in generations at all, did you? Because everything was cross-gen, like, like Microsoft did. I think everything will still be cross-gen for a long time because x86 architecture kind of affords for that reality.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, we'll just have to see how it all plays out. I wouldn't be against the idea. Right. I'm really interested in seeing what Gear 6 looks like. And I do think we will see it this year. I do think, well, next year, right? I'm still under the, like, I'm like already thinking it's 2024, I think this is going to be a huge year for Xbox, not only like game-wise, but reveal-wise. I think they're all set up. I know this past E3 was probably like one of the highest rated Xbox showcases, especially if you look at the Keyleaves. It was definitely in the A category, but comparable with, say, like 2018. But I think they just got so much more now to show. I think they're about to hit not their crescendo, but like everything's about to finally be able to come out. And that with Bethesda, obviously, and ABK, there's a ton of stuff. And I think it's like you're really at that moment where it's like gonna become apparent to everybody soon that, like, oh yeah, Xbox is about to like release like 6 games a year for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I still think there's a little bit of doubt on that side, especially a lot in the mainstream media, where they're like, oh, what is Xbox really gonna do? Like they kind of him and they haw, and they say Xbox. It's funny, Xbox doesn't have any games or whatever, and then one of the guys I follow was like really been critical of Xbox and like how they don't have an identity and they don't really release anything, but gave Hi-Fi Rush his game of the year. And it's like, huh, interesting. Okay, interesting. But he doesn't consider it an Xbox game, But they don't have an identity. Not? Oh, just because reasons. That's why, just reasons. Ugh. But I think it'll finally start to click for him because they're gonna have a whole bunch of games this year, and then they're gonna reveal a whole bunch of stuff at E3, and then like there's gonna be a whole bunch of games come out in 2025, and they'll reveal even more, and it's just gonna be this onslaught of stuff probably that should have happened earlier, but because of COVID and other things, a lot of game delays happened because of that stuff. So it's gonna be fun. Mr.
You know what I really want Xbox to make?
What?
I think Xbox needs more uncanny social experiences, kind of like Sea of Thieves. They need more games like Sea of Thieves where they sort of create these viral social events that can be highly memed, because I think that's what a lot of younger gamers kind of want. They want these kind of social games, and I think that's why Lethal Company's blowing up so hard right now. Did you ever get around to playing that? By the way? You did, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing with Lethal Company. We played it for 4 hours, and we basically saw all that you can see and beat the game, and none of us have any desire to ever play it again until more content comes out with it.
Imagine Lethal Company with a gigantic Microsoft budget, though.
Okay,
there's a kind of game that they need to make. I kind of feel like.
Well, I'm struggling to even visualize a Lethal Company made by a team of 100, considering that game was made by one dude. And maybe, I sort of feel like that's the charm, though. I sort of feel like the charm is how it looks, and it's a game made by one guy, very much like Vampire Survivors, right? Remember, Vampire Survivors was all the rage last year, right? Created that genre. And since then, we've had a whole bunch of games copy Vampire Survivors that look better and maybe play better than Vampire Survivors, but nobody talks about them.
No.
Because I think part of the appeal...
Among Us too. There's been loads of clones of Among Us, and they've all kind of flopped.
Yeah, because part of the appeal is, like, that...
originality, I think.
The originality, but also, like, hey, it's made by one or two people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
And you lose that if it's like a whole AAA production, $100 million 100 people working on it, lethal company. I feel like you lose the charm of, and not only do you lose the charm, but I think people, they look at lethal company and they just like, oh, this is fun. It's one guy and it's a social thing and it's $5 or whatever it is on Steam. But if it was a big AAA production and it's $50, you start critiquing it more, you know? Versus you kind of let things slide a little bit in the, you know, how it currently is.
But I'm kind of in two minds about that. I kind of wonder, like, what would it look like if Microsoft brought back 1 versus 100? You know, like people have been asking them to do that for a million years, and I kind of feel like in today's era, that game like that worked really well, and it's weird that they haven't done it. You know, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Microsoft surely knows better than me. I would hope.
Yeah. Champagne Supernova says last day for Jez to finish Persona 5 or no World of Warcraft till 2027.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's not happening, I'm afraid.
Well, no, Jez has got all of next year to finish Persona 5. And he did agree, but he won't finish it, and I won't make him not play World of Warcraft. So
I will finish it.
Yeah, we'll see. Champagne Supernova. He says, Sony counting portals as console sales, it makes the number arbitrary. The only real measure is unique users. Life to date on next-gen consoles. Thanks for a great year, guys. Farewell, Bobby the Bull. Well, it's not Sony that's counting portals as console sales. That's NPD. And it's like they're counting it as hardware. So that doesn't necessarily mean it counts towards like PS5 numbers. But Sony themselves obviously aren't counting portals as PS5 sales. They're its own thing. That's just, for whatever reason, that's just NPD or what are they called now? Circana?
I don't know.
That's what they kind of are doing. Abdi says 2026 next gen is fine, but one SKU please. I feel like a lot of people want the handheld though. Yeah. And I will say right here and now, if the next gen Xbox ends up being just a handheld, I'm done.
It won't.
I am done.
It won't.
I know it won't be. But I'm just saying, I don't want that. I would be like, all right, PlayStation, here I come. It's like, I am not down with the handheld revolution.
No, it won't be a handheld. And honestly, I think what I could see Microsoft doing more is just leaning into the OEMs for handhelds. I think we'll see eventually a black Asus ROG Ally with Xbox branding, but it'll be an Asus ROG Ally with an Xbox logo on it. I can see them doing something like that because they did that with the Razer Kishi. There's a Razer Kishi Pro with Xbox logos on it. There's also a GameSir Pro with Xbox logos on it. You know, made for Xbox program they've got going on. I think they'll do that. I don't think they'll make their own handheld personally.
Yeah.
I think the Xbox console will be familiar and entertainment center friendly. Personally,
I know there's a lot of people out there would be very disappointed if Xbox didn't do their own handheld, like Everborn Saga and other people like them.
I don't think they will.
But I don't think it makes sense for them to. They'll just rely on the other handheld people to make them, and they'll support them as best they can. Mr. Two Opinion says, content is king. Give me a reason for new hardware. Indeed. Danny Passion Official says, what are your top 3 Game Pass games of 2013? 2013. I'm assuming you mean 2023. Top 3 Game Pass games. Cocoon, number 1. Well, Cocoon would just be Cocoon, Starfield, and Planet of Lana. There you go. What do you think about those 3, Jez?
Yeah, they're good picks. All right.
Yeah, pretty good picks. What about you? What would be your top 3?
My top 3 of 2023. Diablo's probably at the top.
It's not in Game Pass.
Oh, right, yeah.
Game Pass.
Game Pass, then. Oh, that's kind of harder. I would say Monster Hunter Rise. The first time I played it, and I know it wasn't a launch thing for It launched on the Nintendo Switch, right? But I thought it was awesome that went straight into Game Pass, and so that's probably one of my picks. And
Oh,
then
Hi-Fi
what
Rush.
else? Hmm, probably not for me.
I would replace Hi-Fi Rush with Planet of Lana, or Planet of Lana with Hi-Fi Rush.
I would probably. It's kind of tough because I mean Remnant 2. I played that didn't launch into Game Pass, but I played
No,
a
but I
hell
mean,
of
he
a lot
didn't
of
say
Remnant.
he didn't say launch, just that it was in Game Pass. So it is in
Yeah,
Game Pass now. So
I would choose Remnant 2 then, and then probably also another game I've been playing a lot of recently, purely via Game Pass, is a game called War Tales. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it. Yes.
So War Tales is it's like a medieval warbands simulation kind of game. It's weirdly compelling. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm gonna give that a shot.
You know, isn't speaking of Remnant too? Isn't the dev Gunfire Games, aren't they owned by Embracer?
Yes, Rand.
Maybe Xbox should go in and save them. You know.
I think they should. I think Remnant would be a great Gunfire would be a great get.
Just go get
them.
Eidos Montreal. Go get Crystal Dynamics and go get Gunfire Games. Boom.
Job done.
Job done. Yeah, put 'em.
Job done, baby.
Just do that. The Don Otaku, he says Xbox Series X and S 2020, Xbox Series X and S2 2026, Xbox Series X and S3 2031, and phase out the Series X and S, the Xbox Series X S4 in 2038, and phase out the Xbox Series S2, etc. So I guess that's his hardware plan. Just James says member for 2 months. He says Happy New Year, guys. Here's to another successful year of Xbox. What do you guys want to happen that's unlikely? Mine is pixel remasters on Xbox, so the Final Fantasy games.
I actually think that's more likely than you think.
I think that's likely at some point, yes.
Yeah, I think that's likely. I don't think that's unlikely. Pixel remasters is probably one that I put really high as being likely. One that I put as unlikely is Final Fantasy VII Remake.
What?
I think it will come event. What?
Well, so you've changed your opinion on this one again?
No, I think it's gonna. Let me finish. I think it's gonna
Okay.
happen, but not next year.
Okay. I mean, I'd agree with you on that, yeah.
It's gonna happen, but not next year. But
I mean, let's see, unlikely. What would I want to happen, but is unlikely to happen? I'm trying to think of something. I mean, I'm for a mid-gen refresh to go up against the PS5 Pro. I don't think I think that's unlikely to happen. I guess that'd be mine, I guess. Or yeah, that'd be mine.
I dig it.
Let's see. Oh yeah, this game. I think me and you might have mentioned this, but Hellblade 2 is now the most important Xbox exclusive, Jez.
Yeah. This discourse.
This
is fun
discourse. It's always the next game. It's always the next one. Starfield was it. Originally it was like Halo, then it was Starfield, and now it's all on Hellblade's shoulders. Can Senua carry the load? And this comes because of an article, a preview over at VGC, where they said Hellblade 2 could be Xbox's most important exclusive. For Microsoft, all eyes and ears will be on Ninja Theory in 2024. And I sort of hate how this is always the case. It's if anybody remembers back in the days of NeoGAF, back during the PS3 and Wii U time frames, I think I may have mentioned this before. But every single game was always heralded as the game to save the Wii U or the game to save the PS3. Whatever release, it was Lair, then it was like Heavenly Sword, right? And they'd have like a chalkboard, and they'd write these games on there, but like the game that will save the PS3, and Lair would come out and it didn't, so they cross it out, and then it would be, Heavenly Sword, it crossed that out, and then it was like every single release was the most important release for the PS3 and the Wii U. And I sort of feel like the media is sort of doing the same thing with Xbox that they did with those consoles, where like every release is the most important game. Every release is, this game has to hit, right? Like every single one. And I hate this because it creates unrealistic expectations for the titles to live up to, where it's like Hellblade 2 is going, in my opinion, I think it's going to be an amazing game, but I'm biased because I love the first one. But I would never come out and say it's, the Xbox's most important exclusive. What's important for Xbox is to release high-quality games at a consistent rate. Basically, consistency. That's the most important thing Xbox can do. It's not one game. It's a collection of a whole bunch of games. So this idea of always placing one game on a pedestal and being like, this is the most important one, so then you can write articles about like how it failed and how it didn't sell the consoles and Gamepass whatever didn't go up, and then you just do it to the next game. Now, Avowed is the next important game. And then once it's Avowed, then it's Perfect Dark is the most important Xbox game, and then when Perfect Dark, Fable is the most important Xbox exclusive. And it just rinse and repeat ad nauseum. And is anybody else tired of this? Every single year, every single time there's a big game, it's always labeled as the most important exclusive for Xbox. Because I am, because I see through this bullshit.
Yeah, it's irritating to say the least. But what are you going to do? It's like we were talking about earlier. It's the world Microsoft find itself in, where they everyone's over scrutinizing everything they do, for better or worse.
I don't know when. I honestly don't know when stuff like this will end. Does it end with what, the game gets a nomination for the Keighley's Game of the Year? And then does that mean, what is, I guess, like defined as like, what would make it be a success? Oh, it was nominated for Game of the Year, therefore it's a success, and now we can stop talking about it. Is that what this is about? Oh, it won Game of the Year, so now like Xbox is saved. It has a Game of the Year winner, and now everybody's gonna flock to Xbox to play their Game of the Year. Is that what this is about? Is it about sales? Is it about critical reception? Is it about... I mean, that's sort of the thing like Starfield's experiencing was there's a lot of expectations around this game. Some of them put on them by Xbox. Sarah Bond did say one of the most important RPGs to come out, right? I mean, so it's like, yeah, okay, you sort of put some of that on yourself. But then everybody started talking about this game being the game of the generation, which is... I don't know necessarily where that came from. I know people started talking about it. And Starfield wasn't, I think because the expectations were so high for some people on Starfield, the fact that it's only at like an 84 or an 85 or whatever it is, feels like it's worse than it actually is, because it was supposed to be... Some people, I remember when people were doing predictions on Twitter, people had it at like a 95. And I remember playing the game, Jez. We were playing the game, and I was sending you people's threads like, these people think Starfield's going to be an 97. And I'm just like, oh boy, are people's expectations about this game a little bit off. And I'm playing it, and I'm like, yikes. I was like, it ain't going to be in the 90s, that's for sure. Yeah. But
it's just kind of a lazy take. This sort of concept of this game needs to be this, not that, but this game is Xbox's most important game, and it's kind of like, well, what is it, man? Haven't we kind of moved past this now, where it's like, Starfield came out, it didn't blow up like a Minecraft or a Call of Duty, and does that mean Xbox is dead now? If Starfield was its most important game, and it didn't win Game of the Year or whatever milestone they've set for it to be so important, then why is Hellblade now being treated like that? And like, why will Avowed probably be treated like that? And all the next games be treated like that? You know, it's just really it's exhausting the way everything that Xbox does is framed in the context of winning and losing. You know, nobody talks about like how, I don't know, like Apple is doomed because they've only got 12% of the PC market. You know, no one talks about that. No one talks about Apple is doomed because Android completely dominates iOS globally, and that iOS is only popular in America and Europe. You know, nobody really talks about that. But why is Xbox not given the same courtesy or leeway? I don't know. And I think some of it's wrapped up in weird video game tribalism that's kind of existed since forever, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Hey, even VGC's preview of Avowed, their title is "Can Avowed Out Bethesda Again?"
Well, I think that's an interesting take, because you got to be. I think that's a callback to Fallout New Vegas, right? Which a lot of people do.
Or is it a
be...
callback to Outer Worlds versus Fallout? But it's probably it's probably
it's more of a New Vegas thing, I think. And I think that's kind of a fair thing to say, because I do think that Obsidian has a better grasp of what a branching narrative should look like than modern Bethesda does. I think some of the stuff you can do in Outer Worlds is pretty great, and there are those moments in Starfield, but they're not as abundant as perhaps I would like it to be, like a New Vegas would be. And maybe that's just symptomatic of modern game development, you know. But yeah, it does seem like Bethesda's a punching bag, you know. They're a punching bag. Bethesda is a punching bag, and I don't know. Part of it's they've earned that through Fallout 76, disconnecting from their fans a little bit, and I don't know. But yeah, people can't just, you know, move on. They've got to browbeat the game into submission. It's like Overwatch being the worst rated game on Steam of all time. I don't think it deserves that, you know. And it's not like there aren't other games on Steam, like Valve, even, you know, if we're talking about greed and stuff like that, then why does no one talk about like the skins you can get in some of Valve's games that cost like $1 million? And it's because like players set the value, right? Whereas like Blizzard's setting the value of those games. But it's like, well, if Blizzard let people trade skins and set their own value, they'd be mad at Blizzard for that as well. And you know, so it's just weird the way sentiment works. Like, how do you sort of fix it? You know, it's weird. Like, I wouldn't want to be a PR person at Bethesda or Blizzard or Xbox even, trying to figure out what they can do to get the same kind of clout that a company like Steam has or whatever. And people feel real passionate about Steam, for example, and they have a lot of goodwill because they give so much. You know, the Steam sales are crazy. You know, all the memes about people buying games on the Steam sales because the games are so cheap and never actually playing them, you know, because there's just so much. I think like one of the Steam awards is like not the Steam awards, but I saw a meme recently where it was like the most backlogged games of all time. Witcher 2 is one of them, and like Half-Life 2 is another one of them, and I think it was Portal 2 actually. But it's just funny, you know. Yeah, sentiment's a funny thing.
Yeah,
I don't know what you do to fix it.
I don't know. The idea. I'm not saying Hellblade's not important. I mean, it is the game that they revealed with the Xbox, right? Series X. It's been in development for a while. I don't know. The idea of like every single game is the most important game just irks me. And I know why they do it. Like, it makes a good headline. You know, like, oh, Hellblade 2 is the most important Xbox game. And then, like, it'll be Fable's the most important one. And then rinse and repeat. And then you want to read it, right? But I think that also sets the expectations so high that it possibly can't reach it. But maybe it will. Maybe this one does. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I see what you're doing because it's something that the industry has done to other consoles in the past, and it's always like the next game, the next game, the next game, rinse and repeat. And you put all these like super high expectations on it that it can't possibly live up to, and it's like, oh well, it failed again because Xbox is a failure, even though it's not. But they like to present it as because they like the old model of just being like, well, look here, console sales, and console sales say this, and that's not really what the business is anymore. But
well,
whatever.
Xbox could fix that too by being more transparent, but they won't do that either.
Well, yeah, that is true. That is true. And DB Cooper in the super chat says, "You guys see that the Xbox Series X is still $349 and $299 some places even after the Christmas is over? Let me go check and see. What is it at Best Buy right now? Best
I'm gonna go check
Buy
the UK
.com.
Xbox.
BestBuy.com. We have Xbox Series.
Ooh.
X.
Xbox Series X is £360 in the UK, which is £100 off.
So right now the Xbox Series X is $399 at Best Buy. So
is that down? That's down, right?
I mean, that's $100 off. It's $499.
Yeah. And it's £100 off on Amazon UK.
We'll see. We'll see if they keep those prices as standard going into next year. I don't know. Maybe they will. I did sort of feel and say that I feel like they have to. I feel like you know what the market values the Xbox as at versus what it values PlayStation at. And that might anger some people, but too fucking bad. The PlayStation is a more popular device that people buy, that people are willing to spend $499 on. I think Xbox has tapped out the audience that is willing to pay $499 for the Xbox Series X. And you need to move it lower.
I agree. And, you know, they can make that money back with Call of Duty microtransactions. I mean, if I go on Amazon bestsellers list right now in PC and video games, number one bestseller is a £10 PlayStation Store gift card. But then number 2 and 3, Xbox controllers. Number 4 is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Number 5 and 6 are Roblox and Nintendo eShop gift cards. But number 7 is the Xbox Series X. And the next console on that list is really far down. I don't know if like all the stock sold out of everything else. Oh no, PlayStation 5's there. So down at number 42 is PlayStation. That is really intriguing. Is that the first PlayStation model on the list? Yeah, it is. It is. The first PlayStation model on the list is down at 42, whereas Xbox Series X is number 7. So maybe a lot of people are buying their second consoles right now. And where's PlayStation? PlayStation's 42, and Xbox Series S is 48. The Series S right now is £209, which is absurdly cheap. That's like cheaper than one of the cloud gaming handhelds. But this is interesting, Rand. Number 43, best-selling in PC and video games, is Everclean Clumping Cat Litter Lavender Scented for long-lasting freshness, maximum odor elimination 10 litre. I don't know why that's listed under console gaming.
So wait, is that selling better than the PS5 right now, or one spot worse?
It's one spot worse. So the PlayStation is beating the kitty litter.
The kitty litter. You know, speaking of animals, did you see the video of the dog that, as the girl was unwrapping her present, it was the PS5. The dog just took a huge steaming pile of shit right next to it.
Oh god, that girl was like so stunned. She didn't know what to do. She was like, "What is this real right now?" I kind of feel like she was wondering if she was dreaming.
Yeah, it's like
so bad.
Well,
I would have been gagging, man. I would have been thrown up. I hate that stuff.
You can tell that the dog did not like the PlayStation as a gift. It was an Xbox fanboy.
Yeah, Xbox fanboy.
This is too funny. This is too funny. Humdrum says, you forgot VGC's Canavowed out Bethesda. I mentioned that. Yeah, Danny Passion Official. I meant 2023. Great picks, guys. Here's my top 3 list. Mine's are Remnant 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Lies of P. I didn't say Lies of P because I haven't played it yet. So
Wolong and Lies of P are 2 games like quite high on my backlog that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But like my backlog's become this sort of monster now, where it's like I just sort of look at my backlog and like I get choice paralysis, and then I just go back to
So much to
Diablo.
choose from, but you don't know so much. You just don't know what to choose. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
But let's talk about Xbox in 2024, Jez. Right,
Sure.
we're about to approach Xbox next year, and I kind of just wanted to maybe lay out like their events and the games that might come out, where they might land or whatever. Obviously, like Sloth, if you're listening, don't tweet this out because this is nothing but just random. We're just gonna throw random stuff at the wall, right? This isn't like, oh my god, things are leaked, because we don't do that, right? And obviously there'll be stuff here that's wrong, and there'll be probably stuff that's right, but who knows what'll be what. But I think Xbox starts the year off with another developer direct in January. I think they do it again. Like late January, early February, because Xbox really needs to. They really need to like give people the release cadence for the year. We don't know. We know of the games announced for 2024, but we don't know when anything's launching. And you see a lot of companies already setting like the early parts of the year up for their games. So I think we'll see a developer direct that will showcase probably roughly a similar amount of games to the last one, five games. So I think at the developer direct we'll see stuff like Towerborn, which I believe will be launching first. I think Towerborn is the first game to launch. And you know what, Jez? Mm-hmm. I sort of feel like Xbox is going to pull what they did last year. And I know it's not necessarily a shadow drop, but I could easily see them, by the way, Towerborn, you can play it right now.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know, like, hey, it's available to play right now. And if they don't do that, I think it comes like February or March. I think Towerborn's the first game to come out. So I think we see Towerborn again. I think we see Hellblade, and they date it. I'm just going to say Hellblade comes out in, like, April. I know, like, people are like, oh, no, well, they didn't give it a date at the VGAs, so that means it's got to be later in the year. And maybe it is, but I don't know. Like, I sort of feel like, why go through all the trouble of having the concert and the new trailer at the VGAs only to, like, not to release the game for another 10 months, 11 months? So maybe this is my own wishfulness here. Like, I want it to be true, but I think Hellblade comes like in April, and then I think we also see Flight Sim, and I think that comes out in like June, the June summer time frame, very similar to when the first Flight Sim came out. And then I think we get a surprise. I think we get a look at South of Midnight.
In June?
No. I think we get a look at South of Midnight at the Direct. And we see the game, and then they date it for like 2024, and then eventually I think it comes out in like September. And I think that. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of just, I'm trying to like think of like fun things, exciting things. Maybe it won't happen that way, but I do like feel like in my gut, I feel like, yeah, you know what? I think South of Midnight could be this year, or next year rather. I really think it could be, and towards later in the year. But wouldn't it be cool if you're not expecting something at the developer direct and it's like, boom, man, here's a look at a game. We haven't seen what it looks like, but here's the first look at South of Midnight, and it's coming in 2024. And maybe they can even give a launch trailer at the E3. You know what I mean? Or the summer showcase. And then maybe we see something else from Avowed, and if not Avowed, maybe it's like, or maybe if you don't want to do South of Midnight, it's like, boom, here's the Gears collection. And Jez screams, "No, no, special Nick,
no." Yeah.
So I think we'll see. That developer direct in January, early February. I'm gonna say it's probably like the same time frame as last year's, and we'll get the release cadence for the first half of the year. which I think will be, like I said, Towerborn, Hellblade, and Microsoft Flight Sim, right? And then we'll have the showcase in June, same time as always. And I think they branded the Xbox and Activision Blizzard showcase. Where years previous, they branded it the Xbox and Bethesda 2 years in a row. This past year was just the Xbox show. And remember, because people thought, well, does that mean Bethesda's not going to be there if there's not branded Bethesda? Even though, did we see anything from Bethesda this past year? At E3, I'm trying to remember. Or was it just your typical Elder Scrolls and Fallout 76 stuff?
I don't think we did. Maybe someone in chat can correct us.
But I think they branded the Xbox and Activision Blizzard showcase. Just so they can kind of tie the companies in together a little bit. And then, you have a whole rundown of a whole bunch of stuff. Odyssey gets revealed. Id's new game gets revealed. Perfect Dark gets gameplay. Fable gets gameplay. Indiana Jones gets, a new trailer. Well, I don't even know the first trailer you saw of Indiana Jones would whatever. Maybe that you get a cinematic trailer or something, but there's a lot of things that they could show.
We already had one of those.
What do you mean?
I mean, we already had like a CGI teaser. They can't do that twice.
What, for Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that a CGI trailer. I mean, that was just
a teaser.
A scrolling. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you could have a 2-minute trailer that's CGI, kind of like Blade. I don't know. Maybe you can't. But I mean, that first trailer was just an announcement trailer of like, we're working on Indiana Jones. But there's a lot of games that they can announce and they can date. And I still think you do QuakeCon, but I don't think you hold id's game for QuakeCon, because I do feel like we'll get id's game this year, or at least revealed. I think it's going to be Quake. And you know what? I think for the first time in a while, I actually think you get Call of Duty revealed at the Xbox show. I think they'll break precedent specifically for this one. They'll have a trailer for it, and it won't really show much, and then it'll be like, later in the year, blah, 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 right? Like, they'll go in depth. But I think they will show Call of Duty off at the Xbox show.
I think so too. And I think this year's Call of Duty will be particularly special. It's been really long in development. The Modern Warfare 3 wasn't received that well. And it'll be good for Microsoft to put, like, even though Microsoft had nothing to do with it, people will, if it's bad, people will consciously associate it with Microsoft making bad Call of Duties. I don't know. Or people will FUD it that way, right? So I kind of feel like if this is going to be like a really good Call of Duty, then you probably want to put your branding on it. I would imagine. But do we know when PlayStation's marketing deal extends for Call of Duty 2?
I want to say last year's was the final one, but I think the deal probably extended from a year from that release, right?
Mm.
So I think Xbox should have the marketing rights to this new Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War. The Treyarch game, first one in development for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be special.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, okay, you wanna brand the two entities together, call it the Xbox and Activision Blizzard Showcase, reveal Odyssey. Whether that's exclusive or not is anybody's guess, right? Probably have update trailers for Overwatch 2, the new trailer for the new like expansion for Diablo that's coming out at the end of the year, right? Diablo 4. Yeah. So we know there's a new expansion coming out for that. Reveal Odyssey, reveal Call of Duty
World of Warcraft.
You could, yeah, reveal, the Call of Duty game. Because obviously you're probably going to have a lot of time, because it's not like you're going to have a huge breakdown on Starfield, which is going to take up 45 minutes, so you can have the show as long as you need. And, there'll still be a QuakeCon, and maybe they show more of, Doom's its game there. And I think you still do BlizzCon. They usually do BlizzCon every year, right? It's not like every other year type thing.
They stopped for the pandemic, but the thing I worry about BlizzCon is it makes no money. It costs millions of dollars and it's unprofitable. And everyone was complaining about how much it cost last year. And I know from speaking to people that it did not make money again, even though it cost like a load of money.
Yeah, but why
To
don't they
get a
just
ticket.
did not just classify that as a marketing budget, a marketing thing? That's
Yeah, I mean they should classify it as a marketing budget. I just don't know if Microsoft would see it that way. I would hope so.
We'll
But you
see.
don't know. You don't know what Microsoft thinks.
Yeah.
Microsoft works in mysterious ways. This is what like I was talking about earlier, like my whole sort of cautious optimism about Microsoft, because I kind of like maybe Microsoft doesn't want a BlizzCon, maybe they shut it down, and that kind of stuff. I'm nervous about that kind of stuff because they spent a lot of money, and I don't know what it looks like when a company spends that much money. You know, I don't know what it looks like, bro. So I am a little bit nervous.
Right. Well, I mean, so then 2024 release schedule, like I said, Towerborn early in the year could be a surprise drop in January, but maybe it's February. I think Hellblade is like April timeframe. Flight Sim, I think, is like June. Then you're getting into later half of the year, and I want to say you have South of Midnight in September. You have Our History Untold in October. You have Avowed in October. You have obviously Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War in November. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm just going to say this just because whatever. Gears Collection, September as well.
Oh.
I don't think Forza Horizon 6 is next year. I think they will hold on to it for 2025, and maybe they release it like maybe in March of 2025. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, it's always tough to do because I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at a wall, but that's sort of what I think at least the year is going to look like. I mean, maybe Xbox has other stuff. I mean, it obviously doesn't include things like Stalker 2, which isn't exclusive, but we don't know how long for. I mean, the court document said 3 months, but maybe it's longer. And I think that's supposed to be Q1 2024, probably March. And whatever sort of other Game Pass deals they have for this year or any other games. But I think they'll probably get out like 6 or 7 games next year. I don't know. I think 2024 looks really good.
It's going to be an absurd amount of games next year from Xbox. And I think like activity from third parties won't be as crazy as it was this year. So Xbox might have like a really sort of good canvas to sort of make its mark next year. They don't have to compete maybe as much with others. Be interesting. Because do we know what Sony's roadmap is for next year? I think we don't, right?
They put out an article talking about what's coming. Let me see if I can find it. PlayStation blog of what's coming from PlayStation in 2024. PlayStation. Hold on. PlayStation 2024. See if it gives me the blog. Yeah, here we go. 1 day ago, PlayStation in 2024 highlights. So this is what PlayStation. Okay, would you load?
Is your internet down? I hope not.
No, I don't think my internet's down. I just don't think this is loading.
Too many podcasts reading it right now.
Weird.
Is it not loading? Just not loading? They banned your IP from the blog.
Yeah, the blog is just not loading for me.
They've blocked your IP, bro.
Yeah, like the whole blog is just not loading at all. Oh, here we go. Finally loaded. Oh man, January monthly games. They're giving away Plague's Tale Requiem and Evil West. Well, it's one good game. Plague's Tale Requiem was fantastic, but that was a day one Game Pass game.
Evil West is all right.
Evil West is okay. PlayStation in 2024 highlights. Here we go. I don't know why it took so long to load. They go, note, this is a top-level article highlighting specific launches and not meant to be comprehensive, right? Because they talk about, like Tekken 8 being there and stuff, and which isn't exclusive, right? So they start off like Tekken 8, and then the Deep Earth Collection for PS5 accessories,
The what?
Yeah, red controller, blue controller, gray or silver controller with like the little panels for your PS5. So the Deep Earth collection, so that's part of like what's coming in 2024. So you got Tekken 8, you have new accessories for PlayStation controllers and the console. You have Helldivers 2 coming in February 8th. You have the Pulse Elite wireless headset in February 21st. So like 2 accessory things, and I guess that's hardware. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is going to probably carry the whole year for them. That's February 29th. Foam Stars, just a 2024 title, right? No date or anything, but Foam Stars. Rise of the Ronin, which is in March 22nd. And the way they kind of have this listed, it's all descending order from the date. Like Tekken is January 26th, and the next one is like February 8th, and then February 21st, and February 29th, and then just Foam Stars. But then Rise of the Ronin on March 22nd. So they're almost giving you the release date of Foam Stars in this article, like where it would be placed in between the games, right? And then Stellar Blade, just 2024. And then Destiny 2, The Final Shape, June 4th, 2024. And that's it. So
yeah.
And that
mean, presumably they'll have some other stuff.
Well, will they?
I mean,
they only had Spider-Man 2 this year. Are you sure they'll have more? I'm not too sure.
Free roguelike mode for Spider-Man 2, maybe.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure they will. People thought Wolverine was going to be 2024. A lot of people thought it was going to be 2025, and we know that game's 2026. We know that they delayed a whole bunch of their live service stuff, pushed a lot of it further out. I mean, Concord was announced for 2024 this past showcase, but it's not mentioned here in this article. So has Concord been delayed to 2025 and beyond? Yeah. I mean, it's very odd for Sony not to have, like, if they had a huge game for 2024, I feel like that game would already be announced. You know what I mean? And
yeah, maybe.
And I feel like because it's not, maybe they don't know yet. I mean, Death Stranding 2, I guess, could be possible. But that really seems like the only one that maybe could make it. But either way. Yeah. So we'll see how the 2024s stack up between. But I don't know. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty good year for Xbox. I think in general, I don't think 2024 is going to live up to 2023. I mean, how could it? 2023 was incredible, right? So I think this is going to be
almost too incredible.
Almost too incredible, Jez says.
Yeah, my backlog is looking awful. You know,
your backlog is looking awful.
Yeah, it's a complete shambles, man. Shambles.
What else did I want to talk about before we get to Patreon questions? If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. True Achievements counted up all the Gamepass titles for this year, Jez. And they gave out $9,000 worth of games this year. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
When people joke about it being the best deal in gaming, it really is the best deal in gaming.
Yeah. All the games that are added, basically $9,000 worth of games, which is...
I think it wasn't just the amount, it was the quality. You know, Wolong, Monster Hunter Rise,
Lies of P.
Lies of P for me was the best Game Pass edition. Like, I would love it if Microsoft enters in some kind of long-term partnership with that studio, because I think they're absolutely magic. And that Lies of P is by far and away the most credible Souls-like that isn't From Software. Like every sort of Souls-like that's similar to Dark Souls or whatever, there's always like something kind of holding it back in a way. Lies of P was so close to evoking that feeling of Dark Souls that I think that's going to be a really special studio. And wasn't that their first major game?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very special studio. And then, you know, Remnant 2 came eventually, which is also high quality. Just Sea of Stars as well. lots of high quality, lots of variety. And then, of course, you've got all the Xbox exclusives that hit there, like, your Starfield and stuff. So, yeah, it's probably the best year ever for Game Pass. And it's hard to imagine how they're going to top it, but I guess they are going to top it next year because they got loads of their own games launching into there. There's, for me, like, next year is like, obviously you talked about all the games, so I won't go over that again. I mean, I kind of agree with a lot of them. I'm not sure if Towerborn or Shadow Drop personally.
It's just a fun little thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a fun
I
little
mean,
thing.
yeah, I'm just sort of like, yeah, I'm just wondering, but I would like it. It's the kind of game that I think would benefit from being shadow dropped because of that virality and that sort of like, oh my god, new game, let's go check it out. Because it is a service game. It's a service-based side-scrolling Monster Hunter like. And it really did give me Monster Hunter vibes on a side-scrolling axis. But the thing that really struck me about Towerborn was how tight the combat felt because I played it last summer. For those who don't know, I played it last summer, and man, the combat feels so tight. And I've since discovered that the reason the combat feels so tight is because the developers who made Killer Instinct's combat system made Towerborn's combat system. So it's basically a beat 'em up by the creators of Killer Instinct's combat system. And you can really feel it, the precision, the hitboxes, and the weightiness of the different weapons and stuff like that. Because every weapon gives you like a different feel, kind of like Monster Hunter. Very, very cool game. I think Towerborn would be a bit of a sleeper hit. I think it'd be very popular, like in a sort of Castle Crashers kind of way. But like for me, what's interesting about next year round is platform stuff. Because I know the games are going to be good, and there's loads of games that I want to play, and there's backlog stuff I want to play too. Like I'm kind of really mad at Diablo right now because I can't kill Uber Lilith because I think it's the worst boss design in the history of gaming. You basically have to use a broken build to kill Uber Lilith, which is really, really making me mad. There's just these spikes, man, that one shot you, and the hitbox is ridiculous. And if one little pixel touches you, you insta die. It's not like it hits you, it does some damage to you. It just one shot kills you, even if it just scratches your arm, which is ridiculous. I'm standing there tanking Lilith, literally carving me in half with her claws, and I can't take a tiny little prick from a spike clipping the side of my armor. Makes no sense. Terrible design. Anyway, there's my rant about that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many cool games that are slated for next year. Is Dragon's Dogma next year, or is that 2025?
Yes. Dragon's Dogma is March, I believe, or is it May?
So Dragon's Dogma,
no, it's March.
Yeah.
March 22nd or 23rd or whatever.
I think Dragon's Dogma is going to be massive. I think it's going to be absolutely massive. I think it's going to be the Elden Ring of next year. I think it's going to be a huge
that's
game.
bold. That's bold.
Yeah, I'm throwing that out there. It's going to be the Elden Ring of 2024. Mark it in.
All right.
Dragon's Dogma 2
what is Suicide Squad going to be?
Suicide Squad's going to be the Marvel's Avengers of 2024.
Oh, that's not what you want to be. That's not what you want to be.
It's gonna ship. It's people hardcore fans are gonna play it, and then it's gonna die and be shut down. I don't know. I want to be optimistic because I do like Rocksteady. And it's not like this is a cynical cash grab where it was like the publisher forced the studio to make it. Because we know that Rockstar has a legacy of building passionate games based on the DC universe, or the Arkhamverse as it's become known to be. So I'm really rooting for that game, but Suicide Squad seems like a cursed brand. It seems like a cursed brand, man. And some of the leaked gameplay from the recent beta test was not particularly encouraging and exciting. But anyway, so like for me, beyond the games, and you talked about the games, some of the platform stuff's really interesting. So like we're gonna see Xbox's mobile game store hit next year. And I know this is not of interest to you or maybe the guys in the chat, but the reason this is important is because if the mobile game store does well, it will subsidize the console, as long as they've got a will to do so. So like they'll make 30% extra money by not having to pay Apple and Google anything. And also potentially they'll also reach out to mobile game developers like Hoyoverse maybe, and they'll say to Hoyoverse, bring Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail to our mobile store, we'll give you a 10%, a 90% cut, sorry, rather than the 70% that Apple gives you. So you get more of the money. And also, we'll throw in Game Pass perks as well to incentivize people to play the game on their phone via our store. But also, will you bring the game to Xbox console? So I think like there'll be Halo benefits if this mobile gaming store does take off for Xbox. There'll be a halo of benefits for people playing on the Xbox ecosystem on console and also on PC as well. So like, even though I don't think anyone here is particularly excited about Genshin Impact coming to Xbox, it's a huge game. It's an absolutely huge game, and the fact that it's not on Xbox hurts the Xbox platform. So, and also Phil kind of hinted that there could be an achievement rework next year. Well, not next year, but he said that it was in the roadmap for achievements to have a makeover. So I kind of like having achievements being made over and maybe getting some more investment in the Xbox feature set, I think would be interesting. Because people always ask me about achievements all the time, and I don't know if people in chat care so much about achievements. I know, Rand, you're not that much of an achievement hunter anymore.
I still care, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people love achievements and they love doing the platinum, getting the 100%. But then you don't get a platinum like you do on PlayStation, and people want that. People want to showcase how many games they've fully completed, and I think that's a cool metric to be able to showcase, and hopefully that's something that Microsoft emulates. So there's that potentially to look forward to next year. There's also like Windows 12 stuff which will enhance further the experience of Xbox gaming on Windows, and that's like PC Game Pass again with Halo benefits for console. And then who knows what else, man. I mean, they're going hard on this AI stuff and Copilot. We could see the first AI features come to Minecraft and Halo, which could create a level of virality that Xbox kind of needs to bring in those casual gamers or those younger gamers. They see like, oh, I can exclusively AI generate things using Game Pass, for example. I can see, right, Rand, Microsoft making AI generation in Halo and Starfield and Minecraft a Game Pass exclusive feature, because that stuff costs money, right? So it's kind of like you don't want everyone on Minecraft blowing up your servers by generating pictures and stuff, right? So maybe you make it Game Pass exclusive, and it's like maybe you use that to help grow Game Pass subscriptions, where it's like you get the generative AI features if you subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate. Maybe they do it that way, because right now I think you get 3 months of Minecraft Realms with Game Pass Ultimate, so that's kind of an on ramp too. And as we were talking about earlier, growing Game Pass helps the console and also could potentially lead to them dropping the paywall for multiplayer in the next million years. I don't know. But
giving you a nice time frame for that. But yeah,
it's a good time frame. But but this is all important platform stuff, which, like I say, should have a kind of.
And 2024 will be the year you beat Persona 5.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Fun Speculation Mav in the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I think Suicide Squad will be a good fun game, just not what people expected from Rocksteady. I mean, I haven't played it, so I don't know. I'm probably gonna get it day one. But then I said the same thing about Avatar, but then I watched the gameplay of Avatar and I'm like, yeah, no. And Colt, I was talking to Colt last night. He's like so over Avatar. They do the thing where like the levels are like you have to be, or they like recommended level to play this mission is like level 18, and Colt was saying he was like level 15 and it was like impossible for him, and he even put it on easy. And the only way to like raise your levels is to go find better gear. Like just doing missions doesn't raise your level. You have to find better equipment. He's like, I'm done with this game, and I'm like, yo. Mr. True Opinion says, shout out to my homie Perfect Shogun. Fantasticals, member for 38 months, says, do you remember when Dealer predicted the PS5 would launch $100 cheaper than the Series X due to the power gap? Man, so glad that didn't happen. Yeah, me and Dealer used to have a we had a debate on that. He was pretty sure that the PS5 PS5 couldn't launch at the same price as the Series X because the Series X is more powerful. And I was just like, bro, they'll be the same price. What are you talking about? But yeah. Anyways, let's head over to the Patreon questions. We do have a lot to read. We've got two weeks worth of questions from the Patrons. You can also submit your questions at patreon.com/XB2. And we thank you for all the support. If you guys are enjoying the show, hit the like button. And please subscribe if you're new. So this is last week's. We're starting with. We got Andrew McGregor saying, what game that Xbox releases next year from a first-party perspective do you think will be the biggest hit? Well, not like what's going to release first or even review the best. What's going to be the biggest hit? Call of Duty Black Ops Call 4. Did I get it right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What game that Xbox releases next year from a first-party perspective do you think will be the biggest hit? And I said Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War or Gulf War, clearly. But that's too easy, right? That's way too easy.
Yeah,
right?
Let's not count that. I say Hellblade.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Hellblade,
think.
right.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it would be Hellblade 2 as well. I could see it being the Gears collection if the Gears collection comes out with all the multiplayer and everything. I could actually see that doing really well on both Steam and on Xbox, if it's actually real. But yeah, I'll go with Hellblade. Billy the Brewer says, happy holidays to the entire Xbox 2 community. Rand and Jez, do you have any fun holiday gaming memories? I think back to the Christmas I got my Dreamcast or the 3 to 4 days in 2014 the Lizard Squad ruined Christmas break for everyone. I wish everyone safe travels and good times. I mean, yeah, Christmas was always the time I got my gaming gifts. My grandparents used to come in, so we'd have Christmas at our house, and my grandparents would come, and their car would just be full of gifts, and it would take them like 20 minutes to unpack the car, and our living room, our TV room would just be filled to the brim with presents. And that's when I would get my Sega Genesis and my Sega Genesis games, or PlayStation or whatever. So yeah, like I have a lot of fond memories of. I remember one year I was so disappointed because I would look at all the gifts, and I would see the names on them, and there was nothing that resembled like a box for a video game. And I'm like, am I not really getting any games? And I remember before I even opened up the presents, I was so upset. I'm like, I'm not getting right. Like all I got here is just a bunch of clothes boxes. Like, what a clothes box. You look at the box, you're like, am I really getting clothes? They tricked me, Jez. They tricked me. Right?
Oh no.
So I opened up one of the clothes boxes, and inside was 3 Genesis games. So like they hid them within the box.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Those are some of my memories of gaming Christmas. What about you? You got anything special?
I for some reason I always remember getting Silent Hill 2 for Christmas. I was like one year I was really, really sick, and I'd done something really dumb. I drank water out of a fountain in the middle of town.
Okay.
Which had pigeons swimming in it, and the water was filthy, and for some reason I don't think anyone even dared me to do it. I was just acting like a fool, and I'd been watching way too much Jackass. So I drank this water, which was probably swimming with all kinds of nasty shit, right? And I could have contracted Legionnaire's disease or something, probably. But I was really, really ill. I'd never had an illness like that in my life before or since. I lost my sense of taste and smell. All my glands went into overdrive. I was like spitting up, phlegm and stuff like that. But I was like, people in chat said I've told this story before, so I'll cut it short. But I was off sick, and I think my parents, because I was sick, they gave me one gift early, and it was Silent Hill 2. So I was just laying in bed, sick as hell and vaguely delirious, playing Silent Hill 2, and like I kind of feel like the illness accelerated the effect the game had on me, because it was just like, it was trippy, being a little bit feverish, but also experiencing this absolutely insane game. So it was like a weirdly fond memory for me. I had like 3 weeks off school and just playing Silent Hill. It was awesome.
Mm. That sounds fun. We got CJ. He says, "Hey, gents, no questions this week. Just wanted to wish you both in the Xbox 2 community a Merry Christmas. Well, hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. Hope everybody got what they wanted. Hope you had a great time with your friends and family." Lazar Wolf. Merry Christmas, guys. Jez, you were right. I already have friends talking about getting an Xbox just to play GTA 6 instead of waiting for PC. Well, you know that's going to happen. You know people are going to be like, they won't be able to stop the FOMO. A lot of those PC players will definitely have to play it on console, and then they'll buy it again on PC a year later. Nate Miller says, "Merry Christmas. Grateful for this community the past year and looking forward to next year. What do you think next year holds for gaming? Any cool tech you're looking forward to?" No, not me. I'm not really looking. There's not any tech that's on the horizon and I'm looking forward to. Is there any for you, Jez? Like any cool tech?
Any cool tech? Well, I don't know off the top of my head, but CES is around the corner. So the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
Windows Central will be out there. But one thing I have had recently, which isn't next year, but I've got it right now. I've got these X-Real. I'm writing a review of them right now. They're called X-Real augmented reality glasses, right? And they're kind of like, if you remember ages ago, there was a VR augmented reality headset that Xbox was working on called Project Fortaleza, I think it was called.
Okay.
And they kind of look like that. They look just like regular sunglasses. So it's not like a big headset. They're just regular sunglasses. And when you put them on, you get like a full-blown 4K display in your eye. And you can like set it off to the side and stuff. It's kind of cool. So like you could play Xbox while having a YouTube video in the corner. Kind of. So that's kind of one cool tech I'm reviewing right now. But as for other stuff, I don't know. I'm kind of interested like in the new processors, ARM processors that are coming out, and what that'll do for PC gaming. I mean how they perform for PC gaming, because they've talked about how like they're better for gaming and they're going to be coming for PC. Like they're designed for PC, ARM stuff. So yeah, I suppose that would be it. I don't know beyond that. I need to look into it. But yeah, check out our coverage of CES in the coming weeks.
Okay, we got Monkey versus Tramps. Merry Christmas, fellas. Here's my question. What is the biggest animal that the following people could defeat in hand-to-hand combat? Code Eastwood, Phil Spencer, and Dreamcast Guy.
The biggest animal that following people could defeat in hand-to-hand
So what's
combat?
the biggest animal that Colt could beat?
Colt could beat... Colt's quite tall.
Yeah,
he?
but his dogs constantly beat him up. So I'm gonna say like his little poofy dog, right? Phil Spencer. I mean, Phil can take on a polar bear, right? No problems.
Yeah, well, Phil snowboards.
Yeah. He probably
Phil's probably got experience wrestling polar bear.
he probably ran into a bear on the slopes, right?
Yeah, and probably had to fight it. Yeah.
And
so Phil can fight a bear.
Dreamcast guy. I don't know. Maybe
be
like
nice, Rand.
What?
Actually, Dreamcast guy works out.
I know.
He's always posting pictures of him, lifting, and so maybe Dreamcast guy could, take on something bigger than you'd expect. I'm going to say Dreamcast guy can take on. He can take on an ostrich.
An ostrich. Okay, that's a good one. I like that.
The ostrich or a kangaroo.
Ooh. Dude, those kangaroos can be pretty beefy too,
Yeah, so I imagine a scenario where Nick
would get destroyed by a kangaroo.
Well, yeah, this is my story. So Nick from Xbox era is fighting a kangaroo, and unexpectedly, to his surprise, Dreamcast guy comes and saves the day.
Mm.
And then Nick and Dreamcast guy become the best of friends because they both hate Xbox.
That's very true. Yeah. Very, very true. We got Sonic SVT Focus says, Rand Jez, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and all the Xbox 2 community. There's been so much talk this year about the business end of Xbox, but with the holidays upon us, I'd love to hear some of your favorite gaming moments of 2023. What games had a specific story or gameplay moment that you remember enjoying the most this year? Thank you for all you do for the Xbox community.
That's super kind.
Best moments. Favorite gaming moments. I mean,
for me, I'm gonna come back to Diablo again, but like I didn't expect Diablo's story to be as strong as it was. I thought it'd have that classic addictive gameplay loop like Diablo 3 had and Diablo 2 had, but I didn't expect Diablo's story to be as good as it was and as like as powerful as it was. Like I cared about the characters, even though it's like this isometric camera perspective, and you're not like down on the floor seeing them very often. Like there are a few cutscenes where you're sort of down on the ground, and it's more like a more personable perspective. I was surprised how effective they were at telling a story from that isometric camera perspective. The music was amazing, and some of the I think the people who've played it will know what I'm talking about, but there's a climactic pre-rendered cinematic CGI cinematic towards the end of Diablo 4, which I personally think is probably the best CGI cinematic in gaming history. So yeah, Diablo 4 totally gets my personal pick. What about your end?
I mean,
Best gaming moments.
I got a few of them. Playing Alan Wake 2 and like sitting in there and playing it in the beginning when you're like you start playing and it's just you're just big fat guy that's naked and it's like, what is this? But then like you start getting into it and you get to that chapter where it's with the chapter 4 of Alan's. It's called We Sing, and it has the musical number. And it just blew my mind because I didn't expect anything like that, and I wasn't spoiled on it. Like, the whole playthrough of Alan Wake 2 was just incredible for me. I would say getting to review Starfield, I was not something I was expecting, and then I got the code, and I was like, oh my god. And then some of the main missions really were exciting for me. Like, I had a huge smile on my face playing some of those the main levels, and like the actual ending. Like I was just so happy because I enjoyed it so much, especially considering it started off very, very poor. I was not enjoying myself when I was playing Starfield in the beginning, but it ended on a high note for me. Getting that shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush, right, where you're sitting there watching it on stream, and you're like, dude, look how cool that game is. And then all of a sudden, by the way, you can play it now. And you download it, and it's better than you ever thought it could be. It's from a studio known for making horror games, and they make a bright, colorful, beat 'em up, and it's just like, holy crap. And it's like, dude, you got new Xbox mascots. You got 808 the cat. You just have a whole collection of new cool Xbox characters. Those are probably my 3 favorite right there. Just that off the top of my head. But I mean, there's so many others, like playing Hogwarts Legacy and having a really good time with that game, or loading up Star Wars Jedi Survivor and really enjoying that. Cocoon, like figuring out some of those late stage puzzles that really make you think. There's some really, really cool moments for 2023. Governor Grimm says, happy holidays, guys. With Spider-Man, Wolverine, X-Men, and Blade being made, what untapped IP would you like to see explored more? Rand, since you like to read, what book IP would you like to see that isn't Wheel of Time? Oh. Jez, since you don't read books, what movie would you like to see adapted to a game that hasn't already made its way to the video game world? Interesting.
I kind of like... I've talked about Judge Dredd before.
Yeah, you've mentioned Judge Dredd. Yep.
Judge Dredd is like the worst utilized IP in history, and I don't know what Rebellion thinks they're doing by letting that lie. That is so strange to me. That they'd rather just crank out Sniper Elite games rather than make a Judge Dredd game. Are they insane? I don't understand that at all. But also Spawn. I mean, Spawn's always made a splash when it comes to Mortal Kombat, and I kind of feel like Spawn is a recognizable enough character, especially with people of a certain age, where it would work really well as a violent sort of open world prototypey kind of game. Maybe I don't know. There's quite a lot of those comic book heroes that I think would translate well to be in game form, and Rocksteady's proven that it can be done. Rocksteady provided the template, and now Insomniac's doing it as well. You want to believe that maybe more of these sort of games could translate across. But also, like, there's a lot of JB chat says Sniper Elite 5 is great. Yeah, Sniper Elite is great. I'm not saying it's bad, but like, do we need another Sniper Elite? Sniper Elite 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Why not just make something new?
How many times can you kill Hitler, right?
Yeah, exactly. They seem to alternate between Zombie Army games and Sniper Elite games when they've got Judge Dredd sitting there gathering dust. It's crazy to me. Yeah, that's gonna be my pick, Judge Dredd. Otherwise, we'll be all night. Go on, Rand. Hit me, baby.
I mean, out of untapped IP, I still would want a Superman game. Like, you do a Spider-Man game and an X-Men game, a Blade and Wolverine, and there's a Black Panther and an Iron Man one. Like, where's my Superman game? You know what I mean? Or my Justice League game. It's like, that just seems like to be a no-brainer that somebody should be doing. But if you want to talk about, like, other comic book IPs, what about Coalition making a Punisher game?
You've said that before.
I know I've said that before, and I'm just thinking, like,
I don't know anything about Punisher, so
like,
but yeah,
the Punisher could so work from them. As for like books, I still think like Dresden Files could be a really cool modern day Harry Potter game, right? Because he's a wizard, and you have like werewolves and vampires and all these sort of things in a modern day Chicago. I think that could make for a very interesting video game. I know they've tried to make Game of Thrones as a video game, but I think it's like they picked the wrong developer. The Sun Eater, I think, could really work as a cool video game. The sci-fi series. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see any of that. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, I think, could actually be a really cool game. It's got all the powers. You could have like an open world, and you can basically fly in that game because you can push yourself off metals, and so you can pull people towards you, and you can fly towards people or lift your there'd be crazy movement and things you could do in the Mistborn world. For anybody that's read the books, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think that would be really cool. Achievement says, Jez, I just got a ROG Ally recently. I was wondering if there are any accessories you'd recommend for it. I already got a hard shell case and a screen protector.
So one thing I'd recommend is probably a dock.
A dock?
A dock, yeah. But you need to get one specifically for the ROG Ally because the Steam Deck has slightly different specs. And if you get one that doesn't support the 65-watt charging, then you end up not being able to fully get the 30-watt performance out of it. So we do have some recommendations up on Windows Central. I can't remember what brand dock I've got, but if you DM me on Twitter, I'll let you know. My docks it goes up to 25 watt, I think, but the difference is probably negligible overall. But yeah, a dock is really cool. You slap it, instantly plug it into your TV, and then you plug your controller in, and then boom, you got like basically a gaming PC anywhere you want. It's awesome.
All right, we let's see what else we got. We have Batman Beyond. Hey guys, Merry Christmas. Which game comes out first, Fable or Forza Horizon 6? Bonus question, could Wolverine be canceled due to the leak playable build? No, I don't think Wolverine will be canceled due to the leak playable build.
Definitely not.
And I think Forza Horizon 6 comes out first.
I agree.
Yeah, I think Forza Horizon 6 comes out first. It's quite small, but smells like a big one. Howdy, gents. Just wondering, do you feel there are any games in 2023 that deserve a special mention or recommendation? Games that flew under the radar but deserve more attention than they got.
It's a good question.
Oxenfree 2 for me. I didn't really see a lot of people talking about Oxenfree 2.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because like maybe the mystery because of the first game a lot of people played. But honestly, like Oxenfree 2 came and I didn't really feel like anybody talked about it. And I wouldn't say it's as good as a game as the first one because a lot of the first game is carried by the mystery of what's going on and you sort of know, obviously, if you're playing the sequel, what the mystery is. But it was still very good. And I didn't really see a lot of people talking about it. So, off the top of my head, that would be one I would say is Oxenfree 2.
Mm.
What about you? Anything that stands out to you?
Off the top of my head, it's kind of hard, I guess. I did kind of enjoy Age of Wonders. Was it 4? I think it was. I did enjoy Age of Wonders 4, which kind of flew under the radar. It's kind of like Civ meets fantasy, I guess, with dragons and stuff like that. But off the top of my head, it's kind of hard. I kind of feel like Sea of Stars maybe deserved a bit more. I mean, Sea of Stars was quite popular overall, but I kind of feel like it probably deserves a bit more. That game is really good. I've only played a little bit of it, but it is really, really good. It's a really good game. Really evokes those classic Final Fantasy kind of feelings. That Square Enix has abandoned. So I'd like as many people to play that as possible, personally.
We got Sick and Tired. Xbox bought a few unheralded studios initially who have been quietly making their new games with extra resources Microsoft affords. Do you think these studios specifically will have a large jump in quality from their previous efforts prior to their purchase? Like Compulsion with South of Midnight, In Exile with Clockwork, Revolution, and Undead Labs with State of Decay 3. What's your prediction on each of these will actually hit? Could they surprise?
I think they'll all surprise. I think
Yeah.
Compulsion especially will step up to another level. I think one of the reasons that a lot of these games kind of actually, I just want to shout out Magnum Westwood. Blasphemous 2 went way under the radar. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Blasphemous 2 definitely went under the radar. But yeah, South of Midnight, like I think Compulsion, one of the things Compulsion kind of lacked was maybe like some key roles within their team which Microsoft was able to fund and fill. Kind of reminds me of like Bloober Team, right? Bloober Team basically made walk-in simulators because they didn't have a combat designer in their team, for the longest time, and now they do. So like I'm expecting Bloober Team's games to take on a whole new dimension, and it's similar to Compulsion. They probably like lacked the expertise to pull some of the elements together that they were trying to work with when they made We Happy Few. And I think South of Midnight would be a lot more focused game with a lot more expertise in that team. They have hired some incredibly noteworthy people to take advantage of Microsoft's money. So In Exile, Compulsion, and Under Labs will all step up in different ways. But I also think like even some of the existing studios, like the Coalition, and even though like they were never like, a small studio like Compulsion was, I kind of feel like they potentially suffered during the Meissen years in terms of what they could invest in, and the fact that they got the level of quality out of their games that they did with the resources that Xbox had at the time is really impressive. But now we've got an Xbox in a different universe where they kind of got a lot more budget, and the fact that the Coalition has been so quiet for so long kind of suggests to me that they're doing something quite special. I would be really shocked if the next Gears just looks like a typical Gears game on the same engine with the same animations we're used to, because that's what the Coalition. That's how the Coalition basically was able to extract Gears 4 and 5 for Xbox quite rapidly, is because they already had a lot of those assets made, But I kind of feel like the next Gears is kind of going to take a big leap, because it does feel like they've had a lot of investment. So yeah, I think I think all the studios that Microsoft has will surprise in the post Myson era of limited budgets, and it's really exciting, man. Really exciting.
Yeah. 09C Mine says, "Hey guys, thank you for an amazing year. It's been great listening to you two top gents. What has been your favorite gaming moments of 23, and what has been your proudest gaming moment of 2023? Merry Christmas." Well, I think we already talked about our favorite gaming moments. Mine was like Alan Wake 2. We mentioned about what our favorites were. Proudest, though. What do you think? What would be your proudest gaming moment of 2023? Anything that you beat, like really difficult, or
proudest gaming moment? Kind of tough. Nothing really, I think, made me prideful this year.
I got one. I got one.
Go on then.
I mean, is this kind of tangential, right? But
Tangential.
100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I suppose it is kind of gaming related. You've got a gaming
related
channel.
to a little bit, yeah. Otherwise, I'm not sure has any game made me feel like pride. That I was very, very prideful about hitting 100K, but that would be my answer.
Yeah. Well, in that vein, then I'm going to say interviewing Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond this year.
There you go. Yeah. Good old Collinwood says, "Happy holidays, Rand and Jez. Changing my question with the great discussion today. Seeing what was revealed in the Insomniac leak, what would you suggest should be Xbox's way forward in the future? The ballooning budgets of AAA games and unsustainable financing of these games was discussed. Is there anything that Xbox and Phil Spencer can learn from this?"
Well, you have to expect that Phil already knows all these kind of facts and figures, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not been a secret that, you know, lots of people have been ringing this alarm bell that AAA gaming is unsustainable. The fact that like they have to invest all this money and then not expect to turn a profit on the sales of that game for the next year or even 2 years. I think to have it revealed so starkly kind of makes you realize that these people weren't speaking with hyperbole. This is like actually a genuine problem. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the solution is. And we talked about last week how like, how would you feel about $100 games? And you know, we did a poll. I think we did a poll on it, didn't we, Rand?
Yeah, and it was like 90-10 or whatever. 90 against, essentially.
Yeah, 90 against, saying they wouldn't pay $100 for a game. You know, even though like, Sony's like thinking, in order to make these games, we have to get this much upsell, and there's lots of there's a lot of overheads with that, you know, and there's a lot of retailers that are taking cuts, and you know, and those sort of sales figures get watered down. I think more it's like Sony has to. It's less that Xbox has to learn. It's more like Sony has to learn. You know, it's Sony has to sort of bite the bullet and put its ego aside and admit that in order to maximize the marketing budget on a game, they've got to ship it day in day out on PC. You've spent your marketing budget to market a game, and then you're only shipping it on PlayStation, and then you ship it a year later on PC without the marketing budget. It's kind of to be expected that it's not going to do as well. But if you ship it across both platforms simultaneously, while using that same marketing budget to maximize the returns on the virality, then you'll make a lot more money, you know. I kind of think it's Sony really that needs to learn that kind of stuff, not so much Xbox. But
yeah, I think Phil had that big letter that Kotaku really went in on about like how publishers were using licensed IPs to sort of cover the costs of how expensive games were making and those sort of things, which, you know, is proven Phil to be, you know, what he was saying was true, right? You have Spider-Man 2 costing $315 million, and they're expecting like X-Men game in a, you know, 7 years to cost $500 million. That's not a sustainable business model, right? So like, I think Xbox is doing it the right, like Xbox, it seems like they got to Sony's what Sony wanted to do. Like Sony wanted to do their live service stuff to supplement their income, so they weren't under this immense pressure from the budgets of their single player games, and Xbox just went out and bought all the biggest like live service games right, like they just went out and grabbed them. It's like we got COD now, so they're basically doing that to support what they're already doing with Game Pass and everything. So I feel like the only thing that's going to really show them is stuff that they already knew. They already knew that AAA gaming is expensive, which is why not every one of Xbox's projects are AAA. You notice that Xbox has a lot more diversity in the type of games they make and the scale of games they make versus PlayStation. So, I mean, I think this is the vision that they foresaw. And Phil always did say getting ABK was just an accelerant to their plans.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like they're just further along than they thought they would be at this point. But I think they saw this coming, and it was just like, yeah, you can't spend $400 million on a game, and you can't keep on doing that. Maybe it's works for Wolverine, but does it work for a brand new IP? Absolutely not. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the advantage of using an IP. Like, if you're creating a new IP, like Clockwork Revolution, for example, as part of your marketing effort, you have to explain what Clockwork Revolution is, But like Spider-Man, everyone knows what to expect from a Spider-Man game. You know what Spider-Man does? He slings the web and he
beats bad guys up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silas says, Happy Holidays, Rand and Jez. I'm surprised with the discourse this week regarding gaming sites reporting on the Insomniac leak. Would you agree with me that it's much more games media than traditional news outlets? To me, these channels are more of a marketing arm than news media. Their content is primarily built on reporting, press releases from studios, marketing, previews, marketing, reviews, marketing, and the odd interview, usually timed around a product to market. You have a few traditional reporters like Jason Schreier and Rebecca Valentine, but along with the leak rumor folks like Grub, I've always thought these sites are glorified marketers. Well, I mean, I think some of those sites would even say they're not journalists; they're entertainers, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're a blog site that's just reporting on press releases and you're doing previews, reviews, and the odd interview, you're probably not making any money. So really, the money comes from original reporting or editorialized opinion pieces, right? So there's no money to be made from covering press releases, doing previews, reviews, and interviews. So when you say like they're just a marketing arm, honestly, they're not making any money doing that. The reason you do previews, reviews, and press releases is to build up SEO to target Google. Because if you don't do that stuff, then Google's going to look at your algorithm priorities and just be like, well, these outlets covered this new story, but this one didn't. So these guys work harder, so they deserve it. So like a lot of that content that you see is like, and people think like, oh, this is marketing for the game studio. No, it's pandering to Google. It's Google's algorithm, because this is the game that Google has set out that we all have to play in order to make this stupid business model work, unfortunately, because nobody wants to pay for content. Everyone uses ad blockers, and nobody wants to buy any of the news or reporting they do. So like when people are sort of snarky about like, oh, there's only a few traditional reporters. Yeah, why do you think there's only a few traditional reporters? It's because nobody makes any money. There's no money in this business to do the traditional reporting, because nobody wants to pay for traditional reporting. And like Jason Schreier works for an outlet, Bloomberg, which is one of the few outlets on earth which can command people to pay for access to that content, but most people can't. And IGN can do it because they're the biggest. They're the biggest in the world, so of course they can do it. A lot of the original reporting that I've done is just, purely through sheer force of will, luck, and sleepless nights. But like, I wouldn't expect most people to go through some of that stuff. I've made myself ill, doing this job some years when it's been really, really tough. And sometimes I just think like, why am I doing this? And I could have done something more, some less mentally taxing while also probably making more money. It's because I didn't go to school, frankly. So like, I do push back on this sort of idea that the games media does this stuff on purpose, or they're pandering to publishers because they want review codes. No, it's about Google, and it's about keeping the lights on and keeping people feeding their families at the end of the day. Yeah, they push a lot of opinions that people don't like, but at the end of the day, Google rewards that because nobody wants to pay for anything. So it's like this vicious cycle. Nobody wants to pay. Not everyone uses ad blockers, so that affects the quality of the output. It's just the way it is.
Okay. James Wiseau says, no question this week, but wishing you the happiest of the holidays and to thank you for an amazing year of podcasting. I'll be back home in January, so I'll be able to tune in live again soon. Raj says, do you think the game journalist refusing to cover the contents of the Insomniac hack was hypocritical when the accident released unredacted court documents from Microsoft Bethesda were covered without hesitation? I mean, one was, like you said, an accident. And it wasn't part of a crime, so I'm not surprised everybody covered it because it was like, oopsie, we made a mistake, and here's all the information. Where like the Insomniac thing was literally a criminal act, right? It was a group of people that hacked Insomniac and took all their stuff. I don't really think anybody that covered the Insomniac stuff, that didn't cover the Insomniac stuff but did cover the Xbox stuff, is hypocritical. I think if you covered the Insomniac stuff and then covered the Capcom stuff and the Rockstar stuff, then yeah, you're hypocritical. But you got to be I mean, if this is like the new normal moving forward, if now it's like, well, we're not going to cover leaks anymore, then I don't want you if that's what it's going to be, then don't cover leaks anymore. Period. Yeah. You know what I mean? So Radimus Cisco says, hello guys, happy holidays. I was thinking about the rumor of the next-gen Xbox and concluded that at this point a mid-gen refresh and a new gen are too similar because of back compat. I think Xbox should make it a normal thing for them, and it would be in line with what Phil said about maybe going like phone upgrades. The only group that would most likely be against this is some developers, but console games are not as optimized as they used to be anyway, so it could be more like PC. What do you guys think? Well, yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I really do think the concept of generations is just old-fashioned thinking.
Yeah.
We've got backwards and forwards compatibility now, probably forever. I imagine as long as these systems, say x86, will always have 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X games playable across the whole generation of stuff. It's like more like your smartphone now. Like I can use an app that's designed for Android 8 on my Android 14 phone or whatever version it is now. And that's a good thing. I think that is a good thing that content, that digital content which you can't sell, stays with you forever, in a perfect world, we would be able to sell a digital content, and maybe one day we will be able to. Maybe the EU will create some insane legislation that forces them to let us sell digital content and actually give us true ownership of digital content. Because right now we don't really own anything that we buy. Like even if you buy a disc-based game, that just gives you a license to a copy of the game. It doesn't give you rights to the game or ownership of the game. You own the license to the game, which you can then transfer via sale. But like, as we saw in Sony's terms of service, they reserve the right to give you permission to resell those games. And while they say today you do have permission to sell those discs, they reserve the right to maybe one day take away that right with a digital rights management system similar to what Microsoft got in trouble for in 2013 with the Xbox One. So there's a kind of, the whole topic of ownership is this sort of interesting debate or whatever. But I do think, like we said earlier, I do think Microsoft should just forget the whole concept of generations and just go all in, do their own thing, release the console when they feel it's best to do so, and not worry so much about what Sony's doing, and just support the Xbox ecosystem and the customers. Because if neither user base is growing and neither user base can sort of an Xbox can't steal from PlayStation and PlayStation can't steal from Xbox because everyone's digitally locked in, what's the point of trying to keep that, stuff going? The only thing that matters at the end of the day is content. And I think you can get people to buy both consoles. I think the fact that the Xbox Series X right now is outselling the PS5 on Amazon UK, I think that's just people buying a second console. I don't think that's necessarily Xbox stealing market share, and I don't think that's new to Xbox customers. I think that's people coming back to Xbox because they've already got a PS5, because maybe the PS5 market's somewhat saturated in the UK now. They're both in stock, but the Xbox Series X has got a serious discount right now. It'd be really interesting to see what MPD looks like or what sales figures look like next month. But yeah, they should do their own thing.
Sierra 11 Kevin, happy holidays, guys. Thinking back on console gaming by the decades, 90s brought 3D gaming, 2000s brought online mainstream, and 2010s brought the digital era. When we look back at the 2020s in gaming, what do you think will be the significant development remembered? I'm thinking either accessibility to play different ways, or perhaps a change in the scale of game development, terrain and ballooning costs and development time. What are your thoughts?
It'll be AI.
Probably AI, yeah.
It's early days now, but by the end of the decade, I do think AI will have a significant role in game development and also gaming features.
Or you could say, like, 2020s, since he's saying the 2010s is the digital era, 2020s could just be like the live service era.
Yeah, the live service era, the subscription era.
The live service era started, like, what would you say the live service era started? Like, late, like, 2018-ish? 2017-ish? Really?
Well, I mean, there's been live service games for a long time, but it's sort of it was since really Minecraft and Fortnite blew up where every publisher sort of decided we need to have
Fortnite would have been what, 2018? 2017, around there? I mean, because like Rainbow Six Siege was 2015 and Overwatch was 2016, so I mean, yeah, that is digital, but it's also live service, so maybe it's like 2020s would be live service and AI, but yeah. So those were just last week's questions. So we got this week's questions. Jez, you ready? We got a little bit of time left, so let's we don't need Jez to go on tangents super long. We don't want to be here all night. You know what I mean? Because I'm hungry.
I'm tired.
We have Lee Sanders. First up, thanks for everything you guys have done this year, and hope your families have a great holiday period. I asked a question last week that didn't make much attempt, so attempt 2. With the game of the year discussions happening across the industry, can you pick 3 games each from this year that I should be looking to download in the next week to enjoy over the festive holidays? Hi-Fi Rush, Alan Wake 2, and Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4.
No, Sea of Stars.
Well, I mean, I'm giving my 3. Well, you can. All right, Sea of Stars. There you go. So that's mine and Jez's. Alan Wake 2. Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Stars. Play those. And he also says, what's the best thing about Christmas Day for you? And what type of traditions do you do? I don't really have any traditions for Christmas Day. Like I said, I couldn't remember last time I got a gift. Best thing about Christmas Day?
What do you do?
Nothing, really. It's just another day. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. Your family just not that big on Christmas?
Not really.
We've started recently, like, watching movies as a family, something we never really did before. But my Christmas tradition is my mom makes amazing mac and cheese.
Oh, mac and cheese is good
with meat. It's like mac and cheese bolognese. It's so good, so good, so unhealthy. So we only have it once a year.
Silas says, greetings. Hope you chaps had a good holiday weekend. Jez, if you got into a row with your girlfriend and she deleted your Battle.net account and all your war progress went away, would you restart the game or find another gaming addiction?
I'd start over.
Start over? Yikes.
I'd start over.
Oh, man. Oh, that's true addiction right there. Nate Miller says,
No hesitation.
Why no good modern Lord of the Rings games? Someone fix this.
Oh,
I think Embracer was gonna pump out a bunch of them. I know the most recent one was a big flop, that like Mines of Moria game or whatever.
Did they make Gollum?
No, they didn't make Gollum. I know they were planning on making a bunch of Lord of the Rings games. I don't know how much that plan changed with them basically falling apart. But yeah, it's been a long time. There was a whole bunch of games to coincide with the movies, which I think were done by EA. And then there was the Shadow of Mordor games, which were pretty good. But yeah, there's really, I mean, maybe they should bring that back. Now that I think about it, somebody asked earlier about like an IP that's underutilized, and it'd be like Lord of the Rings is underutilized in gaming, I think. For sure.
Yeah, true. It is true. But I think the Lord of the Rings IP, the franchise, is just kind of abused now.
Yeah, it could
It kind
be.
of feels like the Tolkien estate is just letting anyone do whatever they want with the IP. Can you imagine Disney, like modern Disney, allowing a game like Gollum to ship for one of their IPs? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen. I mean, they apparently didn't like the Knights of the Republic, or I don't know, maybe it was Sony that didn't like it, but one of them didn't like it, or both of them didn't like it. Chimericasm says, "What is both of yours most anticipated games for 2024? Also, keep up the great work with the podcast, and I wish you both a happy new year." I mean, mine's Hellblade 2. Been saying that forever. Hellblade 2, whenever it comes out, and it's 2024, so it's Hellblade 2. Jez, what's your most anticipated?
The War Within, World of Warcraft expansion,
Warcraft. Surprise,
but
surprise.
also Dragon's Dogma.
Dragon Dogma. There you go. Yeah.
But also, Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes comes out next year.
All right.
I've been waiting a long time for that.
Tommy says, "Happy holidays and happy New Year's, fellas. Thank you for the amazing content all year long. 2 questions. Mr. Babbitt mentioned Fable is one of the most anticipated games of 2024 in the trophy room. Is that rumored to be coming? I figured that would be late 2025 or mid 2026. Second, is any potential announcement for a new Elite controller? Thank you again." I mean, there's been some talk about a new Elite controller. I did see Brad Sams make a video about it. I do think there will be eventually a new Elite controller. Probably based off of like, I guess we got to find if that new controller with the haptics is real, right? First. Because if there is one, they're probably making Elite of that. So I do think there'll be a new Elite controller variant in the future. Just not sure when. As for Fable, I have Fable pegged as a 2025 game. I don't think Fable's 2024 at all. What do you think, Jez?
I don't think Fable's 2024. I think you might have misheard. Elite
Or maybe he's
controller-
just hopeful,
Yeah, maybe just hopeful.
But
I
yeah,
honestly don't know.
I think Fable's 2025.
me
Monkey
too.
versus Tramps. Hey guys, I like to ask you both dumb questions, and you'll see the theme going forward. But who would win in a face-off, Solid Snake or John Wick? They can use what gets the job done. Well, interesting question. Solid Snake or John Wick? Well, I mean, like, you
I don't know.
would say Solid Snake because he would just sneak up on you and take you out, and John wouldn't even know, right?
Well, John Wick and Solid Snake both basically use CQC.
Yeah,
Right.
but one's like, I figure in like a hand to hand, I figure John's better, so he'd win hand to hand. So Solid Snake's only option is to be sneaky, and that's what he is. So I feel like if he could get the drop on John without John knowing it, he'll win. But if it gets into like a one-on-one,
Gun battle.
yeah, John wins.
That's an interesting question.
Man, why
Put that
isn't
in
there like a
chat.
John Wick game, Like a
There
real
was that
John Wick game.
weird-
I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about a real one, Somebody should make a real
man.
AAA John Wick game.
Oh, who should make that?
Who?
Remedy.
They'd be pretty good at that. You know who would be my choice? Slow Cap.
What did they make?
Sifu.
Oh, yeah.
Just add some guns in there and you got John Wick, baby.
I was thinking Max Payne is basically John Wick, almost.
Yeah. Randall Jez 19. Hello, gents. I have a question mostly for Jez regarding Call of Duty and Activision. Do you know why skill-based matchmaking and engagement-optimized matchmaking is so strong in the newer COD? Me and my friends are really enjoying Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer, but some of my friends don't want to play with me anymore because of how insanely sweaty my matches become when I join. Why is it so bad? And will Xbox make changes when it comes to Call of Duty and their bad communication like they did with Halo, which is amazing right now. Happy holidays, and thanks for making this amazing podcast, Rand Jez.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they've always used engagement optimized matchmaking, and that's why COD got so popular in the first place. And a lot of people never sort of realize this, but the Call of Duty matchmaking algorithm, and goes back as far as Call of Duty 4, was always sort of designed to sort of set you up for feast or famine, right? But then, like, they did the skill-based matchmaking, which sort of ends up making games way more sweaty, you know. And I think, Rand, you've talked about how, like, you can't play Halo with your friends because
they're way too good.
They put you in sweaty matches because of the skill-based matchmaking. I think, like, the fact that more and more people are talking about this and shining a spotlight on it, I do think eventually they will sort of have to crawl down and maybe offer the option of playlists that don't have it. And but you know, there's pros and cons to both. You know, I kind of feel like if you got ranked mode, then it should be skill based matchmaking. But like if you're playing like casually, I don't know why that has to have skill based matchmaking. I think engagement based matchmaking is enough. You know, maybe like if you have a streak of bad matches, they can throw you a match with complete morons or something to help you get killed. I swear, when I was younger, I kind of could tell that like sometimes like you just end up in a game with morons, you know. You just kind of felt like, oh yeah, Call of Duty's kind of throwing me a bone here, and it's you know, I think the goal with that stuff is to get everyone at least to an even kill death ratio. But I don't know. They must have engagement metrics which suggests that skill-based matchmaking does lead to more engagement. But the fact that so many people are aware of it now and discussing it, then you know, maybe they will do changes. But I imagine it'll be optional.
Yeah. Chiefman says, do you think Disney's struggling financially in the past few years and Blade being a more obscure character that Bethesda got a really good deal on licensing the IP? They probably just got a deal based on the strength of the character. It's obvious. I don't think it's going to be as high as Wolverine or X-Men. So like the whole like, oh, you need to sell 6 million copies in a year or else we take it back. That's not going to be that high. I could see it being half, like 3 million or something. I doubt they're just like giving up like good deals because like Disney itself is struggling financially. It's like whatever the IP's worth, and is Blade IP worth a lot? You would probably say no in comparison to Spider-Man or Wolverine or X-Men, right?
Yeah, Blade isn't very well known, but it is valuable to Disney because they are reviving the IP, right? There's a movie coming out or a TV series or something.
There's a movie coming out. Yeah.
Reboot movie, yeah. So I suppose like for them it's marketing for the movie and to remind people the IP exists and stuff.
Well, I mean, Jeff Grubb did say on Xbox Air that it's targeting a 2027 launch.
2027.
Which, you know, we're almost at 2024, so you're talking about 3 years. And
do we know if the new Blade movie is going to be R-rated?
I think it will be. I'm not sure, but I mean, hey,
it could be.
Blade would be a nice next gen game, right?
Yeah,
you know, cross gen game. But yeah, CJ says Happy New Year to you, gents, and the whole Xbox 2 community. Thank you. Simon B says hi, guys. Hope you had a great Christmas. Just wondering, with 2023 bringing us a fresh look at Fable, which announced games do you think will finally appear in 2024? Everwild, Perfect Dark, maybe. I think Perfect Dark, we'll see that for sure. Out of like the two that you mentioned. We talked a little bit about what to expect, but yeah, Perfect Dark shows up. I don't think Everwild does, and I don't think State of Decay 3 does. That's just
I think
this is my opinion.
I agree. I think State of Decay 3 is really pushing for something big. Everwild, I think, you know, is smaller scale, but also, you know, the reported reboots and reworks and stuff like that. I think Everwild could be further out. I want to know when we're going to see Contraband again. Where the hell is Contraband?
You would think we would see Contraband this year. I mean, you did reach out to somebody and they did tell you that the game's still in development, so it wasn't canceled, at least not yet.
Yeah, it still exists.
And we haven't. Yeah, I mean, this would be what, 2021? It'd be 3 years. I think there's a good chance we see Contraband again. If not, I'd be like, whoa, something's up with that game. You know what I mean? Yeah. We don't see it this year.
Yep.
Ryan Kipple says, any New Year's Eve plans for you guys? Hope it's a great one for both of you. Nope. New Year's Eve is just like any other day for me, essentially.
I am going to get drunk with my uncle and my cousin and her boyfriend.
Oh, that sounds like a plan. All right. Good old Collinwood. Hello, Rand and Jez. Here's my second question. Jez, it's the end of the year. What was the story or article that you wrote this year that you were most proud of, besides the interview with Phil Spencer?
That's a good question. Honestly, my memory is so bad that I don't remember. I mean, I did write a bunch of editorials that thought were kind of strong this year.
Well, okay, let me ask you, because you can probably look this up. What is your highest viewed article of 2023?
Okay, let's look this up. Let's look this up right now.
I'll get to the next question. Thurgus, because we don't have a lot of time. Thurgus, do you think Final Fantasy Online, which is coming to Xbox summer 2024, could be a good test for Xbox putting WoW on consoles since it has a subscription service to play the game? Thank you for everything and Happy New Year. I'm not sure it would be a test considering Final Fantasy Online 14 has been on PlayStation forever. So I don't really think that that's really a test for World of Warcraft specifically. But okay, so you have your
they are testing something with Final Fantasy 14 though, because one of the reasons it couldn't come before was because Xbox didn't allow for third-party content delivery mechanisms. So like Square Enix has its own system for updating Final Fantasy 14 on PlayStation. They don't use PlayStation system, but everything has to go through Xbox on Xbox like that. They want to validate everything. And that was a Microsoft store policy. So they are kind of testing new stuff out. And I do wonder if like there might actually be some mechanisms that do benefit World of Warcraft coming to console. I do think World of Warcraft is going to come to console, but I just don't know how it's going to look. But Rand, I can tell you now what my highest traffic article this year, and you won't believe what it is.
Okay, just tell me. Let's see. What is it?
It was an editorial I wrote this is the last 12 months, so this includes December of 2022. The failure of Amazon's Alexa shows Microsoft was right to kill Cortana.
Okay,
that's
there you
my
go.
highest traffic article of the year. My next one was exclusive. Read the internal memo Starfield director Todd Howell just shared with Microsoft, Xbox, and Bethesda. And I think the article that I'm probably most proud of for the last year is, and this was also one of my highest of the year, it's time to admit that Microsoft was right about the Xbox Series S. And that was kind of me coming to terms with the fact that I'd previously criticized the Series S and maybe mused upon the fact that maybe they needed to have a single SKU, but then sort of coming around to the fact that, do they really though? Do they need to have a single SKU? And since we live in a world with like a plethora of Xbox consoles all existing in the same ecosystem, One S, One X, Series S, Series X, and they all get the games updated, they all get the latest games, and there's no one crying that the PS4 or Xbox One S is holding the gen back. Kind of made me sort of cast off that bubble and so I'm patting myself on the back for coming around to that. But yeah, there was quite a few articles I did that I was pretty proud of in the last year, but those are the biggest ones I did.
All right. We gotta go fast, Jez. Sarah One Kevin. Hey guys, there was a video floating around with the kid upset he got a console a console instead of a PC for Christmas. Was thinking as a parent getting a PC could be intimidating or confusing. With PC gaming being a growth area for Gamepass, what do you think Microsoft could do for an improved onboarding experience? Personally, the thought of game requirements, drivers, etc. is a huge deterrent for me. I don't think much.
Right? I mean, it is true that PC gaming is a learning curve. You know, a PC in general is a learning curve, and PC is intimidating for people who aren't used to it, I suppose. But there are, you know, when I was a little kid, my parents didn't know about PC gaming, but I wanted a gaming PC, and I got a gaming PC. But some kids are just willing to learn by going to YouTube and tinkering and stuff like that, and others aren't. And I think like a lot of kids who do end up wanting a gaming PC, they either are willing to tinker and stuff, or they usually then might get a pre-built with some kind of service provision from that vendor, like a Dell or something like that, or even a gaming laptop. Like, you know, the updating drivers and stuff is not as hard and complex as it used to be back in the day. And it's not as bad as it used to be, but I do think Microsoft could do things to make it more accessible, should we say?
Right.
But
Logan Meyer. Hey guys, hope the holidays are treating you well. Was curious about your thoughts on Undead Labs hypothetically having a survivor horror project to go alongside State of Decay 3. Think they could do a more story and combat-focused survival horror type game in the State of Decay universe. Think it'd be awesome if they could. Is that a rumor going around, Jez? That they have 2 projects they're working on?
I've not heard that myself. I think like one of the things I did hear about State of Decay 3 is that it is going to double down on narrative and story delivery. So I think like State of Decay 3 could be that game that you're looking for that has a more meaty story experience rather than the emergent gameplay stuff creating the story for you. They really want to flesh out the characters you get and how they interact, and stuff like that. So hopefully State of Decay 3 ends up being that game anyway.
Yeah. Don Taku says, do you guys see any currently announced 2024 Xbox games being delayed to 2025? If any, what would have a possibility of replacing it that hasn't been dated yet? I'm not sure they like, oh, well, this game's delayed, so let's replace it with this. I think it's just a matter of like what game's ready. But I mean, like anything could get delayed. If I had to pick one, maybe Avowed gets delayed.
Yeah, I think Avowed would be my pick for game that most likely could get delayed.
Yeah, if we're gonna pick most likely to get delayed, I would just say Avowed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anything would replace it, but if it needs more time, it needs more time, and that's something that Xbox offers. Like, hey, you need the time to make the game better. Yeah. Omen, Jez, if Microsoft creates an Xbox Android store, what will that mean for Android apps on Windows? Will they offer the Xbox Android store in addition to the Amazon App Store? It sounds very confusing.
That's a really good question. I would hope that they'd offer their own store on Windows too, because the Amazon App Store on Windows is garbage for the Amazon Android App Store. It's terrible. So I would want to hope that them doing this is a way of just being like, okay, this Amazon stuff's not working. Let's see if we can expand it out, But there's not a lot of apps on Android that I think to myself, God, I wish this was on Windows. I suppose some people might want Snapchat or Tinder on Windows or something like that. But a lot of these apps have web versions these days. It's not like back in the day where you had to use the app to use Instagram. Everything's got a web version these days. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but we'll see.
Yeah. And you know what? Those are all the questions. We got another super chat from Purple Haze. You think games need to stop being more cinematic and more on the gameplay? Some could be cinematic and some can't, since the prices are rising for games. I mean, everything gets to be more expensive. Gamers demand better looking games, so you got to hire people that need to work longer to, because we've all seen it when a game doesn't look good. People are like, look at that looks like shit. It's like, so you need to hire people to do it because gamers have high expectations. But yeah, cinematics are expensive as well. Everything's expensive. That's the whole point, and you need to have a good business plan to help, deflate those costs or help support those studios that make those experiences. And that's why live service is so important, because it's just money. I mean, how long has Minecraft basically supported Xbox's first party studios with how much money Minecraft brings in, right? Probably a lot. Yeah. I would almost shudder to think, what would Xbox even be around if they never bought Minecraft? I don't even know. If you know what I mean? Like if Minecraft wasn't bought by Xbox, you never know. Like Phil may never have convinced Satya to do what Satya did, because at least you could point to look what we did with Minecraft or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, that's the show. Episode 297 in the books. End of the year, last episode. I think we had a great year, Jez. 2023 was great for gaming, but also great for the Xbox 2, or as Jez calls it rebranded it on podcast apps, the XB2 and Xbox podcast.
Yes, copyright reasons. I guess.
So, yeah, we will be back next week, Friday, with another episode of XB2 and Xbox podcast. And we're going to be trying to do an Xbox 2 Ultimate show this week. So look out for that on Tuesday. And we'll start rolling out some of the, guest shows January. Let us know who would you like to see us talk to in 2024. And, yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Can't speak. Great rest of the weekend. Have a wonderful New Year's. And we will see you back again here on Friday for another edition of the Xbox 2. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Love you guys. Keep it gaming. Later.
Happy New Year. And have a great rest of the weekend, as Rand says.
Later.